And welcome back to the party, everybody. This is Morty, and I'm your host, Sludge, aka TheIndianJesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. Everybody hit that like and subscribe. You know I would do it for you. And let's party. Welcome to the party. Very good to see you guys. We have got some fun tonight. It is one of those days where we are taking a victory lap. As many of you know, Jake Tapper was, I don't even remember if he's still there or not anymore. But that's how relevant CNN is. But if you do watch CNN, Jake Tapper is going to be your guy. And he just recently wrote a book, and he's going on this apology tour, essentially, similar to the likes of Chris Cuomo did. But as bad as that went, this is going a little bit worse. So I got a bunch of clips and some conversations that we're going to get into. It's all good stuff. As always, guys, if you can hear the video, please let me know.
All right, folks, so I can't necessarily put my finger on it. I can't exactly figure out why people aren't perceiving Jake Tapper as genuine. Oh, I just don't know.
Do you think that the media would have gotten this story sooner if it was Trump?
I don't, actually, because these issues
talking about mental decline and cancer
health are so sensitive to talk about and to report. And as you say, yes, we saw weird moments of Joe Biden. We also see weird moments, and they're different. They're not the same issue. They're not acuity issues, but we see weird moments of Donald Trump calling Nancy Pelosi, Nikki Haley, and the like. But it's impossible to say, as you noted, this is what's going on behind closed doors if nobody behind those closed doors is talking. I really just don't think that. I mean, there are a million questions I'd love to ask about what's going on behind the scenes in the Trump White House that we can't get because they're not talking. I mean, I get that that's their job is not to leak to us anymore. And this is a much less leaky Trump White House than the first one. So I guess I just don't.
Oh, no, you actually have to do journalism?
Think so. That's not to say that I'm denying that there's a liberal bias in the media. I'm not denying that 100%. But on health and sensitivity issues, I don't think so. In 2019, Donald Trump went to Walter Reed, and we still don't know what he went to Walter Reed for. It still hasn't been reported, and they still haven't disclosed it.
There's a stuffy nose.
That in itself answers that question.
Yeah, I'd say it's incredibly obvious now, isn't it? I mean, are you freaking serious? He gets asked, do you think that we would have gotten to the story sooner if it was Donald Trump? And he says, I don't actually think so. Automatically. Like, I don't even want to necessarily go into the details or formulate a counterpoint here because it's just such obvious bullcrap. As if the media wouldn't have covered Donald Trump's mental decline if it was as totally blatant as it was with Joe Biden. What an absolute nutcase to say something like this. Ooh, health is such a sensitive issue. Does he really expect people to buy this? Well, what do you think happened within a couple moments of this Jake Tapper video going viral? Yeah, the receipts and all the clips started to drop. Take a look at this supercut from Maze on X.
Obviously, his behavior is erratic and unusual. Do you think there's a case to be made that he's unfit? Fits in with this general theme that there are senior officials in the Trump administration who are trying to protect the country from President Trump's worst impulses.
Right. You got this correct. He's not talking about Joe Biden's mental health decline. He's talking about Donald Trump.
People on the White House staff used to do hashtag TFA, the 25th Amendment, whenever President Trump did anything crazy. This isn't the first time our viewers have heard the term 25th Amendment. They know what it means.
Maybe it's because you keep talking about it over and over and over.
The explosive book Fire and Fury is giving lawmakers more momentum to question whether President Trump is mentally fit for office, they say. A bill on Capitol Hill that could start a formal process to evaluate any president's mental fitness is getting more interest with 56 co-sponsors, all Democrats. You and several of your Democratic House colleagues met with a psychiatry professor from Yale, Dr. Bandy Lee. She told CNN today, quote, as the president is unraveling, he seems to be losing his grip on reality and reverting to conspiracy theories, and even discussed trying to garner support from cabinet officials to potentially invoke the 25th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. This
where have I heard that before? I'm not sure.
Would remove President Trump from office for being unfit to serve.
This guy spent all kinds of time talking about Donald Trump's mental state and fitness for office, or possibly invoking the 25th Amendment. He went on and on and on about it, just like every other fake news hack on CNN and all the other networks. Oh, we wouldn't have gotten to the story sooner if it was Donald Trump. You're an absolute clown, Jake Tapper. The track record's already locked in. We had a president for 4 years, from 2016 to 2020, who was mentally fit, working harder than nearly any other president week prior to him. Donald Trump was competent, healthy, in a good mental state, yet you spoke about invoking the 25th Amendment there. Then we had Dementia Joe from 2020 to 24, and you pretended for 4 years like it never existed, despite the fact that it was plainly, blatantly, utterly obvious. Come on, this guy.
Unfortunately, most of the country disagrees with you. Get over it. We won.
Was staring dementia in the face, and he thinks he can gaslight us into thinking that he genuinely, honestly just missed the story. Oh, whoops. Oh, I just didn't see it. What can I say? Go F yourself, man.
I don't understand how you could be watching Jake Tapper do this and be like, yeah, Trump's the bad guy. I'm like, okay.
If we're so stupid. Well, obviously we're not. And I'm purposely saying we're not because it's not just me. No, people don't seem to be buying this guy's crap even in the least. Jake Tapper's all.
And so on that count, let's slide over to Megyn Kelly giving him the business.
All right. First of all, Jake, explain why it's called Original Sin.
It's called Original Sin because right after the election, we started talking to Democratic sources who were telling us how horrible things were, not just in front of the cameras and all those clips you showed, but how much worse it was actually behind the scenes.
Shout out to Josie. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the party. Very good to see you. We also got Matthew King in the building. Oh, the right-wing dog. You gotta be careful of those. You gotta be careful. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the party, guys.
Things were not just in front of the cameras and all those clips you showed, but how much worse it was actually behind the scenes. And one of them said to me that the original sin was that Biden should not have run for re-election to begin with, which then necessitated the cover-up of how bad things actually were.
Mm-hmm. Who remembers the Atlantic article? Put the title of the Atlantic article in the chat. You should have this committed to memory by now. What is the title of that Atlantic article? You know which one I'm talking about. What is the title?
And that term, original sin, just stuck with me. When Alex and I talked about doing the book, I think the day before Election Day, I already thought Original Sin would be the perfect title because it just gets at how momentous a decision this way was, how momentous a mistake this was to run for re-election, and then, of course, the cover-up.
Alex,
that's the name of the book that he's hawking.
Understand that you originally had drafted a book along these lines, but then the deal fell apart. So how did it get revived? When did publishers get interested in what you were trying to tell?
Well, my book project actually was different. I mean, it was a Biden book, but it was with Simon & Schuster. They signed the deal in January of 2021, and it was
some random Axios guy
supposed to come out before the election. And maybe there was maybe going to be some age stuff, but it was much more about the family dynamics and how they affected the president and the presidency. Ultimately, the book deal did fall apart. Simon & Schuster canceled the book in October of 2023. There are a few reasons.
Who wants to read about Joe Biden?
For that. One was I was running behind. Two, Biden books were not selling well. And third, there was honestly a difference of what sort of book we wanted. And that was most manifest in sort of a debate or
I don't care about this guy.
Book. It was
Good hill to die on.
It was an expensive. I obviously had some Biden reporting and this.
Let's go right to the controversy around the book, and then we'll get to the contents of the book, which I definitely want to spend time on. As you know, this book, it's right in the subtitle. It involves coverage of the so-called cover-up. But Jake, the criticism has been that you're complaining about a cover-up about Joe Biden's mental acuity that failed, that right-wing pundits saw, the right wing in general saw, that independent media saw and reported on.
And a lot of liberal voters saw.
And that was no mystery even to left wing and so-called mainstream reporters who were not fooled, but chose willful blindness instead of honest reporting, and that you were part of it. How do you respond?
Not even just part of it, like central to it. Central to it. Yeah. Shout out to Megyn. Straight for the jugular.
It's a tough and fair question. I would say that Alex and I...
Here we go, Matthew King. Dilly. The infamous article. Google it. That is real. Stay alive, Joe Biden. We need little more than your corporeal form in 2019 or 2018. In the lead up to the 2020 election, they already thought, hey, if you die, all we need is your body to beat Trump. But yeah, there was no cheating at all.
After Election Day, interviewed more than 200 people, 200 mostly Democratic insiders, and almost all of these interviews were after the election. And they justified to themselves what they had done in terms of misrepresenting how the president was, not just to me and Alex and other reporters, but also just to each other. And
stay alive, Joe Biden. Oh, they changed it. They changed it. It used to say, okay, maybe not. Democrats need a little more from the front runner beyond his corporeal presence. That's it. And you wonder where this discovery that you've made, Jake, why nobody is surprised.
To themselves what they had done in terms of misrepresenting how the president was, not just to me and Alex and other reporters, but also just to each other and to the world and to Democrats and to the cabinet, et cetera, by saying that there was this existential threat of Donald Trump and only Joe Biden could beat Donald Trump, and that justified everything in their minds. After that existential threat was over, because the election was over and Donald Trump won, we found, Alex and myself, remarkably willing to talk to us either off the record or on background, or in some cases on the record, about what they saw. One of the things that emerged was that there were two Bidens. One was the fine Biden, serviceable, adequate, and the other one was a non-functioning Biden, and that's the one we saw the night of the debate.
Long before that, too. The two Joe Bidens that you're talking about are separated by a very, very, very simple thing. Time. Yeah, 10 years ago, Joe Biden was Joe Biden. And then he got old, like people do.
Adequate. And the other one was a non-functioning Biden, and that's the one we saw the night of the debate.
Speaking chronologically.
And that's the one we saw some clips of here and there that you just showed.
Clips of.
And that non-functioning Biden, the one that lost his train of thought in a significant way, not in the way just that every human loses their train of thought, but in a way that shows that he's having trouble articulating his very views. And the one who forgot the name of close aides, who was not able to come up with George Clooney's name, didn't seem to recognize him, all that sort of thing. That non-functioning Biden was, according to our reporting, showed up as far back as 2015, after the death of Beau, where one top aide said that tragedy, the loss of Beau, was like watching somebody pour water on sand. That was the effect on his psyche. And there were
and that makes a lot of sense, and that is something that we could all understand and have sympathy for, unless you try to hide it and then implement authoritarian measures and cultural things that destroy our country.
Other moments, 2017, 2018, you hear her report. One of the reasons he came to that conclusion was because of the recordings they heard of Joe Biden in 2017 talking to his ghostwriter, in which he was similarly inclined.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, in 2019, 2020, there were other moments like that. Most of his campaign staff and others would say, like, he's 78, he's 79, he has senior moments, but he's fine. Well, he wasn't fine. And
you don't say. Wait a minute. Jake Tapper here on June 2nd, 2025, saying Joe Biden wasn't fine? What? I don't know, man. I'm gonna need to see some evidence of that.
In throughout his presidency, that non-functioning Biden would show up more and more and more, and he was worse and worse and worse, really deteriorating tremendously the next time there was a really horrible family incident, which was when Hunter Biden's plea deal fell apart in the summer of 2023. And then obviously in June, he was convicted. And the fear of losing his son, not to jail, but maybe to a relapse, to an overdose, to a suicide, who knows, was a very real fear. And the threat of losing a third child.
Again, totally makes sense. And I would have sympathy if you were to say, I can't be your president because of this. But he didn't do that.
Really just diminished him tremendously, according to top aides.
It's not like we didn't know about all the stuff that he's talking about.
So all of which is to say that this was a deterioration. This was a progression. And look, knowing what I know now, obviously, I feel tremendous humility about my coverage, that Laura Trump interview, for example, et cetera. She saw something that I did not see at the time.
We all saw it. So either you're lying or you're just really, really inept at just understanding people as well as being a journalist. I don't think this bodes well for your book. You're either stupider than the average person or you're a really bad journalist.
100%. And I own that. I did ask Joe Biden to be transparent about his health records in an interview in 2020. I did ask him about the fact that voters
But then he wasn't.
thought that he was not transparent at all. No.
He promised you that he would be
Let's
transparent
go,
about his health
Megan.
records, and then he wasn't. And when you sat with him again,
at all.
including 1 month after the Jackie Walorski thing, you didn't ask him about it. You didn't follow up on the fact that he was falling up the stairs, that he was losing his train of thought regularly, that he was slurring, that he was incomprehensible, that he was getting lost on the White House lawn. You sat right across from him and you asked none of that, notwithstanding the fact that he had promised you he would be fully transparent about his health issues.
Not a single one. And, the looming question, Matthew King, so who was in charge? We don't know. So a lot of people are saying that his chief of staff and Jill Biden were very, very present in that. We're going to be checking out Glenn Greenwald and Tucker, and they're going to get a little bit deeper into that stuff. This I just wanted to show because dude's getting his licks. He needs them lashes, those digital lashes.
And you asked none of that,
Or both.
that he was incomprehensible, that he was getting lost on the White House lawn. You sat right across from him and you asked none of that, notwithstanding the fact that he had promised you he would be fully transparent about his health issues.
Not that he would have been, but that doesn't stop you from asking. That's your job.
That's true. But I did ask him about his age and the fact that the American
How old are you? I'm an old guy, but I'm young at heart.
people had concluded that even though he said whenever anybody brought up the subject of his age, watch me. And I said,
yes,
they're watching
And we did.
you and they are concerned
You
that
did.
you were too old for this job.
You
yeah.
you know as well as I do that there's a way of, you can say, hey, there's this poll on your age, or you could say, you just forgot that Jackie Walorski was dead. You asked where she was moments after watching a videotape tribute to her.
That I don't think I saw. Let's take a little side quest there. What is it? Jackie Walorski? I'm not super familiar. Let's see. Where are we? Hey, that's me. Joe Biden, Jackie.
So many.
This was 2 years ago. Shut up. This was September of 2022.
You know so much about this as well, and you're committed. And I want to thank all of you here, including bipartisan elected officials like Representative Governor, Senator Braun, Senator Booker, Representative Jackie. Are you here? Where's Jackie? I didn't think she was going to be here.
Event today, the president appeared to look around the room for an audience member, a member of Congress who passed away last month. He seemed to indicate she might be in the room.
The president was, as you all know, you guys were watching today's event, a very important event on
I almost feel sorry for her. I'll touch on that in a second.
and security. The president was naming the congressional champions on this issue and was acknowledging her incredible work. He had already planned to welcome the Congresswoman's family to the White House on Friday. There will be a bill signing in her honor this coming Friday. So, of course, she was on his mind. She was top of mind for the president. He very much looks forward to discussing her remarkable legacy, public service with them when he sees her family.
Now that I'm seeing, I do remember it, but like cope. Shout out to Liquid Cryptid. Welcome. Said it wasn't his age. It was his ability that was in question. Exactly. And we can say that ability is tied to his age, but it wasn't that, the number got too big. That wasn't the issue. And I mean, it certainly would have been if he kept going, but exactly. It was about the ability. I was just about to do something. Oh, right. I was talking about what's her face? Cream G. Pierre. Josie said, I hate her so much. Fuck her. Caroline is so much better. Absolutely. But I mean, there was a video somewhere of her on stage somewhere talking about how like she never talked to Biden. She didn't know. And so I say almost. I almost have sympathy for her because you could just also not lie to the American people. You could also be like, hey, this is what's going on. And I don't feel comfortable doing this job if I'm not actually getting real information. I just have to stand here and lie to people every day. So she easily could have done that. But putting that aside, like, that's got to be a tough job. Tough job. All right. So yeah, I did actually remember that. It's just hard to keep them all in track. There's so many senior moments.
Asked where she was moments after watching a videotape tribute to her.
Like the Fox News reporter did.
You lowered flags at the White House after she died. This happened 13 days before you sat with him. There is a way of pressing a man like that on the actual infirmities to bring it home to him and to the audience, and you didn't do it.
That's correct. I didn't. And like I said, I feel humility about my coverage. I mean, it's not like I was asking him his favorite movie or his favorite color. We were talking about who.
But this is what they do. Like, okay, you feel humility, but we're asking you for some accountability. Why didn't you think in that moment you should be asking these questions?
We were talking about other issues of national importance. But yeah, I mean, of course, I've said I look back at my coverage with humility, and I wish I did.
Oh, well, that's okay. It's totally fine. He has humility, guys.
Cover the issues of age and acuity, but I wish I had covered them much more. And I wish, I mean, of course, it's May 2025. Do I wish that in that 10, 15-minute interview I had with Biden in October 2022, that this had been the only subject? Because I had then.
Well, it wasn't just that,
now.
though, Jake. It wasn't just that. I mean, you sat with him a couple of times in the course of his presidency, and these issues were not pressed. Well, there was at least that time, and then there was the time at the beginning. And but separate and apart from that, you covered the Biden's presidency. No. Let me just finish my point. You covered the Biden presidency.
I had one
okay, right, and it was 13 days
presidency.
after the Jackie Walorski thing. But you covered the Biden presidency aggressively throughout the 4 years, and you didn't cover mental acuity hardly at all. I mean, time and time again, when issues came up, you seemed to be running cover for the president. You didn't seem interested. Well, I mean,
yeah, we know you don't think it's true. Or at least that you're going to say you don't think it's true. The fact is, we think you're lying. So you have to come up with something else to convince us.
And we'll start with the Laura Trump issue that you referred. Here it is. This happened in 2020.
Joe Biden, as we all know, has worked to overcome a stutter. How do you think it makes little kids with stutters feel when they see you make a comment like that?
A stutter!
First and foremost, I had no idea that Joe Biden ever suffered from a stutter. I think what we see on stage with Joe Biden, Jake, is very clearly a cognitive decline.
Okay.
That's what I'm referring to. It makes me uncomfortable
you are
to
no
watch somebody on stage search for
that's so
questions.
amazing.
You're trying to tell me that what I was suggesting was
I think you were mocking his stutter.
Yeah,
I think you were mocking his stutter, and I think you have absolutely no standing to diagnose somebody's cognitive decline.
And it's very concerning to a lot of people that this could be the leader of the free world.
Okay.
That is all I'm saying. I genuinely feel
Laura
sorry
Trump.
for Joe Biden.
I appreciate it. I'm sure it was from a place of concern. We all believe that. Laura Trump, thank you so much.
Not for him, but yeah, a concern for the American people, as she said, if you would have listened instead of trying to just block anything that she's going to say because she's on the opposition.
Do you want to apologize to Laura Trump now?
I've already apologized to her. I called.
How about the American fucking people? How about the American fucking people? You going to apologize to us? I mean, for all intents and purposes, like, yeah, cool, Laura Trump, cool, whatever. But I don't give a fuck about a phone call to her. Apologize to me. You lied to me.
Appreciate it. I'm sure it was from a place of concern. We all believe that. Laura Trump, thank you so much.
Slimy little fuck.
Do you want to apologize to Laura Trump now?
I've already apologized to her. I called her months ago.
And what did she say?
And again, so that just makes it all better now.
I mean, I don't want to disclose the contents of a private conversation, but
Which means she was like, fuck you.
I thought the conversation went well, and she has said this publicly, so I feel fine sharing it. She said that she would never mock anybody's stutter. But I mean,
Oh, you are comfortable saying that? I mean, I don't know if she would be comfortable with you telling people that she wouldn't make fun of a stutter, but like every word out of this guy's mouth, there's a type of person. There's a type of person. And you can see that the Don Lemons, the Chris Cuomo's, and the Jake Tappers of the world, they are the same type of person. And it is just treading water at any given moment. Just whatever I have to say. Whatever I have to say. Shout out to Lark Park. Welcome to the party. We are checking out Jake Tapper's failed apology tour, book tour, whatever you want to call it. Welcome.
This publicly, so I feel fine sharing it. She said that she would never mock anybody's stutter. But I mean, after we did the research for this book, and I realized how bad his acuity issues were.
You mean like we all knew all along, and you were getting angry and calling us names?
I called Laura Trump and I said you were right.
She was totally right. That's the thing, because
weren't we all?
Because when I watched that clip, and I'm giving voice to what a lot of people watching the show are feeling, Jake. I feel angry because she was right.
Yep.
And not only did you not allow her to make her comments, but you seemed to try to humiliate her. You had a hostility toward the position, but she was
I'm sure it's out of concern.
totally right. And then you lectured her on how she was in no position to diagnose cognitive decline, which you guys do at length, including on page 4 of your book. You describe.
And incorrectly, you'll say that Trump is mentally deficient, but Joe Biden is sharp as a tack, yet other people shouldn't be commenting on mental health. Okay.
At length, his cognitive decline, which is all she tried to do with you. But you had such a visceral reaction to her. And my feeling is that's because you didn't want to hear it.
No, I mean, I'm happy to talk about this. I didn't come here thinking that you weren't going to ask me about this. I'm happy to talk to you about it.
No, I know.
Again, you don't get credit for that. You say these things like, well, you know, I'm going to be, I have humility. I'm going to be gracious. And I knew I came in here knowing that you weren't going to be nice to me. Okay. Yeah, that's because you're a dick and a liar. Why would you? Why would you even need to say out loud that you would expect or wouldn't expect us to not treat you like the slime bag you fucking are? A scoundrel. Exactly. Fucking scoundrel.
I'm happy to talk about this. I didn't come here thinking that you weren't going to ask me about this.
What a great guy.
I'm happy to talk to you about it.
No, I know.
The first time I saw the coverage of Laura Trump's comments, which were interpreted as her mocking Joe Biden's stutter, was in January 2020. I read it in conservative media. I read it in the Daily Mail. And that's where I saw that her comments were being interpreted that way. After those comments were publicized, it got a lot of coverage. And Sully Sullenberger wrote an op-ed in the New York Times criticizing her about this. So that's the context for that, that I was following up on a story that had been out there months before. This is also in the context of October 2020, a very intense time. People on the Biden side are saying crazy things about Trump. People on the Trump side are saying crazy things about Biden, including.
Yeah, but one of those groups was right. Shout out to Indy. Well, welcome to the party. Yeah, they just showed the clip, and it was clear that she was like, what stutter are you even talking about? Adam Carolla famously says, are you stupid or a liar? And as I was saying to Matthew King, or both. Welcome.
People on the Biden side are saying crazy things about Trump. People on the Trump side are saying crazy things about Biden, including Don Jr. suggesting that Joe Biden is a pedophile. So that is the larger context. But as I said, her comments have
Need we put a one in the chat if you've not seen the compilation of Joe Biden sniffing children?
Well, people on the Trump side are saying crazy things about Biden, including Don Jr. suggesting that Joe Biden is a pedophile. So that is the larger context. But as I said, her comments have aged well. My comments have aged poorly. I own that. But I think what is significant is, in addition to me owning that, the reporting that Alex and I have done, which is beyond just, and when I say just, I don't mean to diminish it, but the comments of Joe Biden making gaffes, saying things stupid, tripping, are all important and all deserved to be aired and all deserve scrutiny. But as you know, Megan, because even though you look 30 years younger than me, we're roughly the same age, Joe Biden has been saying stupid things for decades. Okay.
I get what you're saying, but this minimizes it too, because it was more than saying stupid things. But I'm telling you, like over here in my ecosphere,
and that's only the half of it. Where did that go? What did I just do with that? Let me put that over here. Yeah, I mean, come on, what are we doing here? That's not what that was supposed to do. Oh no. Okay. I want to do that and that.
So you're 30. Hey, Angel, how old are you? You're 12. What's your name? How are you? The problem is, you know, you guys, you got a hard time. Yeah. All right, sister. I like kids better than people.
I like kids better than people. Like, I get what that could mean, but grains of sand, right?
Yeah.
Grandpa's one of those guys.
That's nice.
No, I'm not saying. He knows.
What are you doing? What are you doing? Yikes. Yeah, suggests possibly what was the suggesting that Joe Biden,
as you know, Megan, because even though you look 30 years younger than me, we're roughly the same age. Joe Biden has been saying stupid things for decades. Okay,
I get
and
what you're
he has
saying, but this minimizes it too, because
and so basically where he's going with this is, I didn't know the difference between Joe Biden saying stupid things and Joe Biden being completely unable to hold the sentence or remember where he is. But Megan's got him.
Stupid things for decades. Okay,
I get
and
what you're
he has
saying,
been-
but this minimizes it too, because it was
No,
more
I'm not
than saying
minimizing it at all.
stupid things. But I'm telling you, like,
No,
over
you
here in
are.
my ecosphere.
So in the same way, Jake, that you were giving cover to Biden and you didn't realize it, you now are doing the same thing. And we're trying to explain it to you, yet you're on the defensive. Shut the fuck up and learn something.
Because it was
No,
more
I'm not
than saying
minimizing it at all.
stupid things.
I didn't
But
do it.
I'm telling you, like, over here in my ecosphere, we were covering all of these. It wasn't just falling down. It was getting lost. It was some of the stuff you report in your book. We knew, and we were reporting on, like the multi-jump cuts in the videos of him, where it was obvious he couldn't get through a 1-minute take. So they had to use those. It was clear to us that he was using teleprompter, and there was some reporting on that at the time, all of which the White House was denying. Now,
And not even using the teleprompter well.
with the current White House, I have some connections. With the Joe Biden White House, I had none, but you did. You did. And so while you've been in Washington 30 years, Jake, you guys, you and CNN have White House connections, but there was no.
So the question stands, how is it that we knew and you didn't? Either you are stupid, or you're a liar, or you're both. Like Mark said, Joe Biden is a sicko, a creep, and a low-life degenerate war criminal scumbag. Dilly to that. And yeah, that diary was chilling.
No effort, none to get to the bottom of this. And now for you guys to write this book, like,
it is accurate. If it's not accurate, then it just shows that you really are that incompetent.
there was a cover up. It's like there was a cover up and there was an attempted cover up. It could only ever work if you allowed it, if the press allowed it. Some of us tried not to, and some of us were complicit.
First of all, the Biden White House did not like me. Okay.
Oh, he didn't like you, unlike all the conservative reporters who knew what the fuck was going on.
Okay, I do not have great connections with the Biden White House.
You're the main CNN host. What are you talking about?
Well, clearly, you have a lot of sources. You say you talked to over 200 sources for this book.
This
So
is
you
after
have
the
some you
election.
could have called and worked.
No, that's the point, is that they were not being honest. That's
Well,
the
how did
point.
the Wall
that
Street Journal get it in June of 2024? And
How the fuck did we understand it in 2020?
Jake Tapper and CNN couldn't find sources for this story then before he dropped out?
Annie Linsky and Siobhan Hughes did an amazing job in their reporting. And
Notice how he's not answering the question again. Guys, if you could really quick, please do not forget to hit that like button. It does help so very, very much.
they should be heralded, and I heralded them. I had them on my show right after the debate to talk about their great reporting. But Annie
After the
Linsky,
debate, but you did not put them on when they published that story, which was before the debate.
correct. I don't know what the booking situation was, but it wasn't because I didn't want them. I'm sure I
Well,
said that
instead-
day, let's book. I'm sure I said that
instead-
day, let's book it. Did they?
Yeah, you put on a Democrat, and you allowed the Democrat to rip on the
Oh.
report as a Rupert Murdoch sponsored hit piece.
No.
It's just
As expected.
Megan.
Well, that's
Megan,
what
if you're
happened.
gonna
Go
do-
ahead.
Oh, now he's gonna Megan. All right, just okay. All right, can you just please? All right, just come on.
If we're gonna do this, let's just stick to the facts here, okay? When
You're retarded. You lied. You're lying again, and you're trying to save face, and it's not working. Them's the facts.
there is a damaging
Jake,
report,
that's what I've been doing all along.
I'm
One
talking
of
about
us
what you just said.
didn't miss the biggest story of the century when it comes to presidential politics, and one of us did.
Okay, so
Okay.
the there is a difference, okay, between the clips of Joe Biden falling on a stage at the Air Force Academy graduation. There is a difference between the clip of Joe Biden embarrassingly forgetting that a Republican member of Congress who he's talking about has died. Those are embarrassing. Those are important. But there's
See this is what we call vamping. He's like, uh-oh, what do I say? But as a newscaster for many years, he's built up the skill to simultaneously think, what am I going to say next? But also be able to spit out words that are just enough to make it seem like he's currently saying anything. Make out the message from what he's saying.
The clip of Joe Biden embarrassingly forgetting that a Republican member of Congress who he's talking about.
Okay, so he's saying there's a difference between these two clips.
Has died. Those are embarrassing. Those are important, but there is a difference between that.
You already said that.
And the investigative journalism that Alex and I were able to do and only able to do after the election. And I know you know this because you've been talking about the scoops in the book, and you've been talking about.
I don't diminish the importance of the book. I don't. I have.
I will, just by the fact that it has Jake Tapper's name on it. You know, the value just isn't much. Sorry, that's how journalism works.
Supported the importance of the book, and we'll talk about the contents of the book at length. But there is no way we can have that conversation with an audience that is as skeptical of your ability to tell the story as mine is without addressing your role in this, right? Like Alex is,
as I just said,
different story. But you've watched the coverage since it came out that you wrote this book. There's a legion of articles about how comparing you in some instances to like OJ instead of if I did it, this is if I hit it. That like you are not.
If I did it versus if I hit it. Dilly dilly to that. I don't think I was a Megyn Kelly one, but a good meme nonetheless.
The right messenger to bring the story about the cover up because you helped, you allowed it, and you likely did that out of a desire to help Joe Biden and hurt Donald Trump. You didn't.
Yep. And guys, don't forget about the SWOGO at the top of the chat. We did mean it last time, so we are up to 15 push-ups. They keep going up every time we hit the goal. 15 supers of any amount or $50 total. Let's feed the puppy. Every single donation comes with a treat for Morty.
Didn't want to do anything that might improve Trump's chances.
I do not think that is accurate. I do not think that is true at all.
Right. But we do. So can you answer for it?
The idea that Siobhan and Annie do their piece and we have on the co-chair of the Biden campaign is not me trying to cover for the Biden campaign. That is me putting the questions of the reporting that were made to him. And
right. We understand that that's what happened. What we're asking you is how that is not a cover-up.
Saying things like, so you really haven't seen any moment, or you would acknowledge that, wouldn't you acknowledge that he's lost a step, he's 81, et cetera, et cetera. Like I said before, if I had known then what I know now.
If you had tried to know then, maybe you would have known. But to Megan's point, you tried to get away, at best, you tried to get away from the real information so that you could do this right now and have plausible deniability. But you don't because we don't trust you. Shout out to C23. Welcome. At first, they report the fake news and make money. Then they report on the apology of the fake news and make money. Then they write a book admitting to lying the whole time. And guess what? They cost money. Yep. Welcome. We are watching him flail a little bit. And then we got something else where they're talking about this whole thing.
I said before.
We also got our boy Arjun. Welcome to the party. Very good to see ya.
If I had known then what I know now, would I have been more aggressive? Yes.
No.
Of course.
How did I
lie?
I know, and you didn't know. I'm just curious because when I saw that Wall Street Journal report in June of 24, I scoffed at it. Like, okay, it's an attempt, but it's lame. Everybody on the right-wing ecosystem and the independent media ecosystem knew it was a lame attempt that only scratched the surface. We had all been discussing his serious cognitive problems for years by that point. Jake, in June of 2022, this show did a full 2-hour program on his cognitive decline.
I heard it.
It was, I know we want to pretend.
Wait, if you heard it, then how did you not know? You just said you didn't know. And then you said 2 years ago, you watched her talk about it. That don't make no sense. Matthew King said, I'm not sure he was covering for Biden per se, but he just didn't want to lose his insider spot, self-preservation. And I completely agree with you. I don't necessarily think that it was some cabal where it was like, look what we're gonna do. That means nothing. The self-preservation is the conspiracy. The self-preservation is the conspiracy. If you're going to get on national TV and say, I am reporting to you the news, and then are purposely not learning all the information, that is a cover-up. That is a cover-up. Let's take a little break. If you guys are enjoying the show, the party rages on 24/7 over in our Discord. The link is pinned to the top of the chat and is absolutely free to join 24/7. We're in there hanging out, having a great time. And guys, it is absolutely free. However, if you are a member of this channel here on YouTube, you can scroll right below that video and hit that join button. Starts at $2.99. There's a few different tiers, but $2.99 will get you in. It gets you members only live streams here on YouTube, all that other good stuff. But it opens up the full Discord server. So we've got the free chat that is open to anyone. Anybody can join and talk. But as you can see, that is just one of our channels. There's a bunch of different channels here, including our Disciple chat for members only, our Word of the Day watch party, where we're talking about all this stuff. And of course, we have the voice channel here, where we are hanging out at this moment. Shout out to everybody in the Discord server. Say hello and tell them to come and join. There you go, guys. Simple as that. See you there. And of course, remember, you do have to be a member to be part of the after party. But if you join the free Discord, I forgot to pin the link, but I will drop it in a second. If you join free, you get a day pass, a free pass to come and join the after party with us to see what it's all about. Come on.
Did a full 2-hour program on his cognitive decline.
I heard it.
It was, I know we want to pretend, I'm mentioning the Wall Street Journal as a courtesy, but those of us on this side of the aisle.
The link is pinned. Again, it is absolutely free to join. And if you join while the stream is going, you get full member access for the day.
I know we want to pretend, I'm mentioning the Wall Street Journal as a courtesy, but those of us on this side of the aisle had been reporting in depth on his multiple problems and the obvious lies we were being told for years. For years. You really want the audience to believe you were fooled?
Stupid. That's better than lying, right? Is it better to be stupid or to be a liar? Is it better to be stupid or a liar if you're Jake Tapper? Shout out to Arrow. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the party. Matthew Gang said, I agree it's just as bad. Guilty by inaction isn't any better than actively covering stuff up. Bingo. Well said. Absolutely.
Years. You really want the audience to believe you were fooled?
What do you mean I was fooled? I'm not saying I was fooled. I'm saying we all saw these moments before the camera and they were.
But you said there was nothing wrong. So either you lied or you thought there was nothing wrong when clearly now you're admitting that there is something wrong and was at the time. Were you lying or were you wrong?
You mean I was fooled? I'm not saying I was fooled. I'm saying we all saw these moments before the camera and they were obviously concerning and he was obviously aging and that was significant. But
so
the
what
people
did you
at
do
the
to
White
get
House,
to the bottom of it?
I'm trying to answer the question. But so the people at the White House, when I would call, when others would call, when Alex would call, would lie. He's fine. He's fine. You'd call Democrats and say, what are you seeing behind the scenes here? Because this is concerning. He's fine. He's fine. This is just a moment. He's 79. He's 80. He has moments like that, but he's fine. His decision-making is fine. They're still saying that. They're still saying that. And let me defend Annie and Siobhan there for a second, because you just said that their Wall Street Journal story just scratched the surface. They got what they could get in June 2024.
And again, you know, this is a diversion tactic. Let me talk about other people so I don't have to talk about what I did or didn't do.
And I went back, and Alex and I went back to report some of the same things that they reported on. For example, there was a meeting in the White House about Ukraine funding in January 2024. And we were able to get people to say things as a Democratic member of Congress that, I don't know who Annie and Siobhan's sources are, but they were not able to get them to do that. I assume that, you know, they had dozens of sources for that article, but not one of the Democrats that they talked to would even talk on background. It is a complicated thing to try to
I get it.
They wouldn't tell us the answers.
But your commentary on your show, yes, I'm going to bring you in, but your commentary on your show, Jake, consistently ran in one direction.
Yep.
Occasionally you would ask some tough questions. I mean,
right. Again, we understand that you don't think that's true, but what you think is true usually is not.
Here you are in September 2023 saying that Biden was sharp mentally. September of 2023.
No,
You
hold on.
You said he's sharp mentally. I think the question is physically, right? He's sharp mentally. And then you pointed out that his opponent, Donald Trump, was only a couple of years younger than he was. There are many examples where you're doing that kind of coverage.
Okay, so let's be honest and full about what you're talking about.
Oh, no. Okay. I thought we were being honest the whole time, but I guess now is when we're going to start being honest.
There's no problem with honesty on this show.
Okay.
Yeah, let's watch it. Let's watch it. Yeah, Frank Fork came on with a biography about Joe Biden.
Frank Fork came on to talk about his biography with Joe Biden, and I'm trying to summarize what his conclusions were. So he is saying that Biden
and where is the part where you say he's not sharp mentally, Frank? We've seen the following 10 examples in the past year, never mind 3 years.
Shout out to Arrow getting us started on that swoggle with the $2. Thank you, thank you, thank you so very, very much. And of course, a treat for Morty. Thank you, thank you, thank you so very, very much. And of course, that makes you the new sponsor of the stream. Thank you so very, very much, guys. That's 1 out of 15, guys. Super stickers and all that stuff. We just sign up as a member. That all counts. 15 donations, and we hit the goal. Thank you so very, very much.
Past year, never mind 3 years.
Where I wasn't. I've already said I wish I had covered this more aggressively. Frank.
Yeah, we're asking why you didn't. Saying that you didn't is not an explanation as to why you didn't.
Frank Fork had come to the show to talk about his book about President Biden. This was in September 2023. And I interviewed him about his book, and that was the end of that. Now, I suppose, in retrospect, I say again, I wish I had been more aggressive. I do.
Yeah.
And again, we are asking you why you weren't. You're just saying that you didn't, and you're not explaining anything. We're asking for accountability. You seemingly came onto this show for accountability, saying, I know it's not going to be a softball. So what else are you here for? Except to gain back some accountability. And you're not taking any opportunity. She's now directly asked you twice, would you like to do this? Would you like to do that? No, I don't need to. Then why are you here?
But our reporting suggests, and like I said, we've talked to more than 200 people, Democratic insiders, that the real deterioration of President Biden, and yes, there was a degression, a regression.
Hey guys, if you're not going to super chat, at least please hit the like on the super chat. If you're not going to like the video, at least please hit the likes on the super chat.
Whatever you want to call it, deterioration since 2015. But it really started to intensify in the summer of 2023 when Hunter Biden's plea deal fell apart and Joe Biden was terrified about what that effect would have on his son.
I accept that. I accept that it got worse in 23.
Hey, shout out to Box in the building. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the party. We also got our boy United. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Very good to see you guys. CT said, do you think he actually has dementia, or it was the aggressive, is it supposed to be chemo or cancer? I don't know. That would be the job of what Jake Tapper is supposed to be doing. But you know, yeah, it's very possible. It's very possible. I mean, and it's likely a combination of the fact that he's getting older, the fact that he's been, stressed out in the government for the last 70 years, the fact that he lost his kids, the fact that all this stuff was going on. I'm sure it's a combination, but the fact is, clearly, something has been going wrong. Box seems to be having a stroke over here. Yeah, welcome to the party.
What that effect would have on his son.
I accept that. I accept that it got worse in 23.
And people close to him say that was a real demarcation. And in October 2023, there is the last cabinet meeting for almost a year. And cabinet secretaries tell us that fall 2023 began what they call a weird period, where they were kept at bay, where they were kept away from President Biden.
And now we're getting the substance, which I do want to talk about. I'm about to switch to that, but let me just ask you, because when we got to leading up to the debate, which you anchored, that June 27th debate, 2024.
So if you are just joining us, I've been jumping around with a couple different clips, and then we're going to head over to Tucker and Glenn Greenwald talking about all of this shit.
There was a ton of news leading into that debate in that month. And we look back at your coverage. and found that you ignored it. Not only did you ignore the Jackie Walorski moment when you had him 13 days later, but you ignored the freeze up that he had at the Juneteenth celebration. You ignored what happened at the G7 when he wandered off and Giorgia Meloni, Prime Minister of Italy, had to go find him. You ignored the freeze up at the George Clooney LA fund.
Apparently they are accepted.
Razor, you didn't cover it. You only covered it after the debate, after George Clooney wrote his op-ed. Jake, nobody made you do that. There was your network at every turn was telling us those were, quote, cheap fakes. And you were not combating that narrative. CNN was actively misleading us on what our very eyes were showing us. That's the truth. That's the record.
I will acknowledge that after I was named co-moderator of the debate, I tried to make sure that my coverage was fairly vanilla, both about Trump and about Biden.
So again, then you're just admitting that you're a bad journalist. If that's what you think is fairly vanilla, then you're just wrong, and we can't trust your judgment.
Because I just wanted to get to the debate. And, the Biden people and the Trump people, I'm kind of frankly surprised that either one of them agreed to have me as a moderator because both sides disliked me so much.
I wonder why.
But yeah, I remember that moment. And I remember that moment, the glitch at the immigration event, and not getting much attention outside of conservative media at all. And Alex and I are here to say that conservative media was right and conservative media was correct.
Then stop making excuses and explain why you were wrong.
And that there should be a lot of soul searching, not just among me, but among the legacy media to begin with, all of us.
Yeah, but you don't seem to have done any of that.
For how this was covered or not covered sufficiently. 100%. So, I mean, I'm not here to...
We got plenty more. And this, for this video, it only goes on a little bit longer before they go on and start talking about the book, which I don't care about, and we're going to switch over. But yeah, it's not looking good for Jake Tapper. Not looking good for Jake Tapper. Shout out to Ty Cobb. Welcome to the party. Buck said, do we give him props to coming on the show or nah? No, because he's not doing it out of he's doing it solely for his own benefit. Whether that is happening or not is another question. But he's not here to try to apologize to the American people. He's not here to try to make things right. He's here to try to sell a book. Yep.
Defend coverage that I've already acknowledged. I wish I could do differently.
Mm-hmm. Let me bring Alex in. Thank you for your patience, Alex.
All right. So, they talk a little bit more. This is linked in the description below if you would like to see the whole thing. But just in case either you missed some of the compilations from before or you just don't really know much about Jake Tapper, here is another compilation of the guy being the guy.
Apologies for that.
To rebrand himself. And I think this is out of necessity. You're seeing this with some people at CNN. Just last week, and this clip resurfaced kind of yesterday, he acknowledged and recognized the problem with the left, which is what we discussed yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday.
And Gen Z men. Here he is kind of calling them out and using his son as a personal example. It just surprises me that he's surprised.
I went on a left-leaning podcast that shall remain nameless.
They're going to name it, don't worry.
And we were talking about my kids, because I think they were both people without kids. And they asked me about my son, and I said he was, he's a football player and he wants to be a policeman. And their joke was about my 15-year-old son, oh, how does he feel about minorities? Like the idea that he wants to be a policeman, therefore he's racist, my son. And
that's the kind of rhetoric you've been pushing for the last 7 years at the very least. And I said he's a parasite in every sense of the word. Yep. And so in general, if we're talking about, do we give props to someone going into like enemy territory where they know it's not going to be an easy, an easy conversation? In general, yes, but this doesn't count because he's not doing it for any other reason than to sell his book.
It was the big laugh, and then I got dragged in the comments and all that stuff. And I thought to myself, this is why you are losing elections.
100%.
Like my football playing son, who has no political views. He's 15. He thinks about World War II,
want to bet,
and gaming, and playing linebacker. That's his world.
Right. And so your world is demonizing people exactly and precisely like your son. And then you're going to get mad when the rhetoric that you've pushed comes back and touches you. Come on, man.
You're deciding he's a racist because he wants.
Exactly, Box. Exactly. He is the swamp. He is the swamp.
That's his world. You're deciding he's a racist because he wants to be a cop. That's how the Democratic Party talks to men.
I'm going to tell you this. If your son is in World War II, he wants to be a cop and he plays football, he does have political views. That is a...
And they don't match at least what you say on TV.
Who would have thought? It's surprising that a young man or a young boy would want to be a police officer or a firefighter. Those are like the top two for every young boy. Hey, what do you...
Well, pre-2020.
Think the Kalshi odds are on Tapper's son also liking titties? We have it right now, I believe, at 99.5%.
Wait, what? What are the chances Jake Tapper likes boobies? Oh, we are making this our own poll, and we'll just make it a binary. Does Jake Tapper like boobies? Yes or no? Of course, we don't know for sure. Unless you know something, I don't know. But give it your best guess. Fox said he will 100% he'll end up like Hunter Biden when he gets red pilled. Yikes. Yikes. If there's such a thing as downhill for Jake Tapper, that is it. United said he is possibly brave, though, because he is being hit nonstop. It may be that he's simply a sociopath, being hit as much as he is being hit, even by unlike hitters. Even, well, I get what you're saying, that he's, that he's gone in there and he's taken the, he's taken the hits, but he's not, again, it's like, if I'm going to say, you can punch me in the face for $1 million, right? Then, or rather, I'll give you $1 million if I get to punch you in the face. Then it's not really like, oh, you're such a nice guy for letting him punch you in the face. Like, no, it's because I want the $1 million. And so he's here getting punched in the face by Megyn Kelly because he's getting the $1 million. Yeah, I mean, I said I voted yes in the poll because who doesn't like boobs? Well, it seems like you guys think Jake Tapper. Jack, you know what the fuck I mean.
Son also liking titties. We have it right now, I believe, at 99.5%. In case you're shocked by the views of teenage boys.
Even gay teenage boys like titties.
Yeah, of course. At least for the novelty of it. Yeah. By the way.
Yeah, I agree. This is as of age 23 to 25. Under 25, bigger is better. But once gravity starts, then...
He's shocked that they're, meaning the left, is denigrating.
That makes it even worse. He didn't need the money, yet he's willing to get punched in the face so that he can get more. That's Jake Tapper.
By the way, he's shocked that they're, meaning the left, is denigrating police officers and young men who want to be traditionally masculine. In case you've forgotten, here's the same Jake Tapper.
It is shocking to see images of police abusing their power against peaceful citizens exercising their constitutional rights. What are the American people to make of these images of officers brutally beating peaceful journalists and protesters?
And of course, that's not that's a rhetorical question. What are people to think of brutally beating peaceful journalists and protesters? Means cops are bad and the protesters are the good guys.
Images of officers brutally beating peaceful journalists and protesters and then lying about it.
Oh, projection. We wouldn't want to lie, right? Like, lying. What a bad thing to do. So I said I'm 190% hetero. Nonetheless, I can appreciate the titty. Well, I am also very hetero and also love titties.
President Trump and his running mate, Senator J.D. Vance of Ohio, are criticizing the news media and Democrats for what they call irresponsible rhetoric that they allege was behind the thankfully unsuccessful assassination attempt. At the same time that they're doing that, Trump and Vance and their minions continue to spread lies. Why is he talking about Arnold Palmer's penis in front of Pennsylvania voters?
I mean, why not?
You seem to like that line a lot. Let me tell you that Donald Trump is doing rallies nonstop around the country.
I clutched my pearls at the thought of a penis. That's what I want everybody to think.
Something. I don't want to be talking about this.
Well, other guys think it's funny.
Yeah, maybe even your son.
It's a peaceful protest. Yeah, well, don't allow. This is a guy who's spewed rhetoric regarding toxic masculinity, and he didn't quite support defund the police, but the idea that police are inherently corrupt and racist. Don't allow this guy to put distance between himself and the monster he created. Hey, this is the America that you created for your son, Mr. Tapper.
Yeah, I mean, you're in a unique position to be able to push back on all of this stuff, to be able to espouse those views, but when it hits home finally for you and your 15-year-old, not when somebody else's son, like learn.
Exactly. And so the podcast is
How Long Gone Podcast.
The How Long Gone
He likes
Podcast.
police. He is just
So that's Jake Tapper saying about his son. He likes the police.
He likes police. He is just
not the bands, the institution.
No, not the band. I don't think he knows what the band is.
My
I don't
son
think he has any
likes
idea who
police.
Sting or, no, police. Cops. He likes cops.
And notice how much they're already like, oh my God, that's so cringe.
It's not the TV show.
Like he thinks they're cool. Like I don't.
Hey, speak for yourself, brother. My dick is great already.
I don't understand. Like what about a cop?
He's
Not as cool as the How
military.
Long
Likes
Gone
police.
Podcast.
I don't know.
Whoa.
How does he feel about minorities?
He's he's pro, but I mean, I think the thing is also, but
He's proud? What do you mean he's proud? What are you saying? So that was all of the stuff that I wanted to add. We were just going to jump into the Tucker Carlson Show here with Glenn Greenwald, who recently has had a little bit of a not so spicy video go out, but whatever, who gives a shit?
All right, Glenn, I think last time you were here, I ambushed you just by rolling the cameras. Not doing that. We are on camera right now.
Right. It was funny because every show you ever go on, it always begins in some sort of way to indicate that you're actually starting. Like, Glenn Greenwald, welcome to the program. Thank you, Tucker, for having me. But the last time I was on, we were just sitting here chatting, and it turned out 10 minutes in, I was like, oh, we're rolling? Yeah, we've been rolling since we started.
Yeah, but you are one of those people, and this is the highest compliment I can give, who's exactly the same off camera, exactly the same as you are on camera.
Right.
Exactly
That's why
There's no difference
I
at all.
thought our conversation was just the conversation that we always have, and it turned out it was just the show, which made no difference. We went. Your staff courteously let me see the first 10 minutes. I was like, yeah, that's what I think. That's how I speak, and that's all fine.
Yeah, there is. If you like Glenn Greenwald, you'll like him at dinner. Trust me. That
Exactly, bro. Shout out to Happy Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. Goddamn right. Good call, brother.
That's what I can say about you. So, you are, I think, the dean of alternative media. You've been doing this longer than anybody that I know personally. So it must be a little weird to get scooped by CNN on Joe Biden's dementia. Like you had no idea.
None of us knew. I mean, there was that debate, and we were all shocked. But we were like, but we were told he had a cold, so it's like, okay, he's on
and a stutter,
some cold medication. Like, who hasn't been there before? It makes you a little drag, like a little droggy, a little groggy, a little just like dragged. But no, that now Jake Tapper has uncovered the truth. Like, it turns out Joe Biden was in cognitive decline. Did you know that?
How did he find out?
Just hardcore shoe leather investigative
Just working his
reporting,
sources.
just working his sources, like calling all the people in Washington, digging up like FOIA documents. No, it really, it's one of those things where you kind of can't believe what you're witnessing, because Jake Tapper is pretending to have uncovered a scandal that he himself led the way in the media, or one of the leaders in the media, in covering up.
Bingo. Yep. And yeah, Ty, I mean, you're gonna see not as bad as a few years ago, but you're gonna see rainbows everywhere. I want you to count. Let's do this. It's only the second, right? So aside from this show, let's try to keep a count. It shouldn't be too hard, because I'm sure you're not going to hear it that much, but depending on your algorithm, maybe you will. Count how many times you actually hear somebody bring up Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. At the end of the month, we'll see who's got the highest number, but I don't know. I think it's going to be low. This show doesn't count, but outside of that, let's see. If you see a tweet, that counts. If you see a TikTok, that counts. If you see a YouTube video, that counts. If somebody mentions it on a podcast, that counts. That all counts. But I still feel like the numbers are going to be pretty low.
To the point where if somebody would go on his show and say, Joe Biden is obviously in cognitive decline. He can't get a sentence out. He would say, "How dare you bully kids who stutter?" Like, are you at all ashamed of what you're doing? That's what he told Laura Trump when she was like, "Yeah, I feel bad for Joe Biden. I wish he could get a sentence out." And he's like, "Do you ever think about what you're doing to kids who stutter and the kind of world you're creating for them?" And she's like, "What?"
Starting to see why I had all these clips and stuff before we got into it. I kind of know what the fuck I'm doing.
And like everyone else, I never even knew Joe Biden had a stutter. I've been watching him for decades. I never saw him stutter before. The whole stuttering thing was just itself.
Did he actually say that?
Yes, he told Laura Trump that she was like at an event, and it was a very benign remark. She was just saying, "Yeah, you watch Joe Biden," because we talked about this before when I was on your show. It wasn't even when he was president. It was in the run up to the 2020 campaign, and we were talking about this. And we always talked about, everybody I know did. No one takes joy in it. Like, we've all had that experience of watching an older person in our family, go through cognitive decline. It's actually quite sad. So the way she was saying it was like, yeah, honestly, as a human being, I watched Joe Biden and he's in the middle of a sentence that he can't finish. I'm like, come on, Joe, get that out. And then when she went on Jake Tapper's show, he played that tape and he said, "Do you understand the world of bullying that you're creating for kids who stutter?" And she was like, "What?"
Yeah, right, Box. Take the win. We got it. Shout out to Brandon Murphy. Welcome to the party. So I hope they can recognize men like us dealing with depression and anxiety along with OCD. It's always been about them, not about us, and wants us to off ourselves for their ego with no empathy or pity. Bingo. You got it.
Creating for kids who stutter. And she was like, "What?" I'm
now
just
you're
observing
attacking stuttering kids.
Yeah, and she's like, "I didn't even know he had a stutter." He said, "And we all know he has a stutter, and I know that you are mocking his stutter."
Do we all know that?
And so this was not just a person who didn't speak about Joe Biden's cognitive decline, who's now uncovering this shocking truth that 85% of the public has known for years, according to polls. He would go on. I heard him this week saying, one of the very few people, because he was asked why didn't people in the Democratic Party speak up and say this since they all knew it. And he said, "Well, Dean Phillips tried and he got mauled and maligned and his character was attacked by the Democratic Party." I was like, by the Democratic Party? Go watch what happened when Dean Phillips went on Jake Tapper's show and said that one of the reasons he was running for president, he was concerned about Joe Biden's age and his infirmities and how he couldn't win and couldn't govern. And Jake Tapper said to him, "Do you know that your Democratic colleagues despise you and they've been telling me the worst possible thing?" That's what he did to everybody who went on his show in order to say, "Hey, I think Joe Biden's in cognitive decline." He was, I mean, obviously.
But now that he's written the book, all is well. Because guys, he has humility. I mean, that's for a lot. Guys, that men are more successful at their attempts to off themselves. Most women are seeking attention when they attempt. And I mean, it is crazy that the men are better at everything. But yeah, the craziest fact that I've learned in a long time was that 90% of attempts fail. That's wild.
He wanted Biden to win desperately and would not tolerate anyone going on the show and saying that Biden was in cognitive decline. And now he's making millions of dollars off a book. But the only good thing is that his credibility is so in tatters from it that he had to hire a PR crisis firm, like the kind that Anthony Weiner had to hire, that like Puffy Combs hired. Like, imagine being a journalist and being exposed as such a fraud that you have to hire a PR crisis team of the kind that like public figures hire when they're involved in some like big, sex scandal or like bribery scandal. That's who's managing Jake Tapper's behavior and his comportment. They've tried to place like hit pieces on me and succeed in like, shitty places like the Daily Beast.
That makes sense. The other side of I have a book is look how bad everybody who has ever said anything bad about me is.
But everything he says now is scripted, like every interview he does now. At first it was like, what are you talking about? This is outrageous. And now every time he's in an interview, he says, "I look back on my coverage with humility."
Oh. Humility. I have humility. Hey, speak of the devil. Our boy, Nick Lucchetti, moderator to the stars. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the party. We were just talking about how awesome you are and how much we wish you were here. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Outrageous. And now every time he's in an interview, he says, I look back on my coverage with humility. You know that phrase they feed you to make it seem like you're accepting accountability, even though you're really not?
Called, yes.
Yeah.
That's what I said. That's what I said.
Yeah.
What's interesting, though, is that it wasn't just, I disagree with you. Biden seems fine to me. What's interesting.
Yeah, and Lark Barks and Brandon, and Brandon's insightful words resonate deeply with me as I personally struggle with anxiety, depression, and OCD. We must address and discuss these issues to foster productivity. Abso-fucking-lutely, guys. And it is, it's not enough that we just acknowledge that this happens. We need to talk to other people and talk about this stuff, get more into the place where I think we've evolved past like, oh, what a fucking loser, you got anxiety, depression, just get the fuck over it. There's still a lot of that, but there's the two sides of it, where you see people typically on the left where they wallow in anxiety, depression, OCD, neuro, whatever, whereas people like us don't have to wallow in it, but we still struggle with it. I take medicine for anxiety every single day. I'm just dealing with Yo Kratom, because they fucked up a thing with my thing, all that stuff, and I started doing drugs because I had mental health issues. So we need to be able to talk about this stuff, and I've got something perfect for you guys to talk about it. If you guys are enjoying the show, the party rages on 24/7 over in our Discord. The link is pinned to the top of the chat and is absolutely free to join 24/7. We're in there hanging out, having a great time. And guys, it is absolutely free. However, if you are a member of this channel here on YouTube, you can scroll right below that video and hit that join button. Starts at $2.99. There's a few different tiers, but $2.99 will get you in. It gets you members only live streams here on YouTube, all that other good stuff. But it opens up the full Discord server. So we've got the free chat that is open to anyone. Anybody can join and talk. But as you can see, that is just one of our channels. There's a bunch of different channels here, including our disciple chat for members only, our word of the day watch party, where we're talking about all this stuff. And of course, we have the voice channel here, where we are hanging out at this moment. Shout out to everybody in the Discord server. Say hello and tell them to come and join. There you go, guys. Simple as that. See you there. And of course, guys, like we said, you do have to be a channel member to be in that after party where we actually can discuss things. But we do have the free chat. But if you join the free chat, you get a day pass to the after party so you can come and hang out. And yeah, a lot of times we're talking about politics and religion and that stuff. But as Box is saying here, it is serious. And if you are dealing with something, come on through and we will be there. We are a community, and that's what we are trying to do. Hey, shout out to Indie Film. Oh my goodness, almost 2 years as a member. So it doesn't count for our swell goal, but of course it does get a treat for Morty. But we got it right here. Shout out to Indie Film. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so very, very much, sir. Very much appreciated, guys. That's 2 out of 15 and a $7 out of 50. Remember, any donation counts. Any donation counts. Thank you, thank you, thank you so very, very much. Of course, that makes you the new sponsor of the stream. Sorry, Arrow. He has knocked you out. Thank you so very, very much, guys. Let's dive right back in.
I disagree with you. Biden seems fine to me. What's interesting is that he used the kind of most vulgar moral blackmail you can. Like, you're attacking children who stutter. You're attacking disabled kids when you criticize the president of the United States. Like, that is so low. It's hard to believe that happened. I haven't seen the clip, but
yeah. I mean, he claims he called Laura Trump to apologize. Maybe he should do that on his show, since that's where he told his audience she was attacking kids who stutter. Like,
exactly. That's what I said. Yeah, you want to go private phone call and be like, hey, my bad. How about to us? Where's the apology to the American fucking people? That's who deserves it.
On his show, since that's where he told his audience she was attacking kids who stutter. Like that's like one of the worst things pretty much that you could do is like bully kids with disabilities, right? Like if my kids ever did that, I would punish them for 3 months. You know, so like accusing her of having done that like probably doesn't warrant a private apology, or maybe it does too, but also, you know, you go on air and you were like, hey, I did.
Yeah, and I said I retain a professional counselor if I get too sorrowful, and that can be expensive. That can definitely be expensive, and quite the process to try to find the right person. If nothing else, if you're in despair, check out ChatGPT. Be like, I want you to act as a therapist. I'm dealing with this, that, and that. It's a lot better than nothing. Now, I mean, if you're about to off yourself, maybe seek something a little more geared to that than ChatGPT. But if you ain't got nothing else and you're broke, ChatGPT is your therapist.
That like probably doesn't warrant a private apology, or maybe it does too, but also, you know, you go on air and you were like, hey, I did something really despicable. You know what's so amazing too is they're trying to rewrite history. Obviously, one of the ways they're trying to rewrite history is to say we were the victims of the fraud. We in the media were the victims of the fraud, and we're so angry at this inner team of Joe Biden's White House advisors who kept this from us, who hid this.
We're the victims. Oh no, they didn't tell us the right things, and they expected us to do journalism, you know, as journalists.
Even though the entire public knew forever, but I've written about this so many times it drives.
Yeah, exactly, guys. Act like a mod and you will get a wrench. Act like a mod and you will get a wrench.
It's crazy how easily history is rewritten. The first time I ever heard concerns about Joe Biden's cognitive decline was back in 2018 when the Democratic field was coalescing of you know, people who were going to run against Donald Trump.
Okay, boomer. Next, you're going to tell me about how email is trying to steal your information.
And they were really worried Joe Biden was going to get the nomination solely by virtue of name recognition because he was the vice president to Barack Obama for 8 years, was viewed as loyal, has been around forever. And I
mean, hey, if nothing else, the man is loyal.
They all knew there was no way he could sustain the rigors of an election because he was in cognitive decline. And so it was like these Democratic operatives, like Andrea Mitchell talked about it, Cory Booker and Julian Castro in that 2019 debate, all made fun of Biden for not being able to remember what he had said three seconds ago. It was the Democrats who were raising it, trying to alert everybody that you shouldn't vote for Joe Biden because he's not the same Joe Biden he was. I'm not talking about 2023. I'm talking about 2018 and 2019.
Which is right around the time that the Atlantic article came out.
The minute it was down to Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders in the 2020 primary, that's when all of a sudden the media narrative shifted and it became the only people who are talking about Biden's supposed cognitive decline are Bernie bros and MAGA people. And it's,
yeah, you know, the truthful people.
It's absolutely immoral and disgusting. And that's when I wrote an article saying, what do you mean? You were the ones who first raised it. I heard it from you, you know, those DC insiders. So it's not, and the only reason why, you know, what saved Joe Biden from that was that COVID happened and he got to run the campaign from his basement where he only talked to like Nicole Wallace, who spoke to him like some, you know, ailing grandpa. You know, that voice that you use for like your ailing grandpa, like,
Grandpa, do you want to go to the park? We can feed the birds.
Mr. President, or Mr. Biden, hello. Oh, and then you do that fake laugh if they get even close to a joke, because those were the kind of interviews he was doing. And he was in that basement in Delaware. That's the only reason why he could sustain that campaign.
But it was so widely known. I mean, his sister, Valerie, told a good friend of mine that she didn't want him to run in 2020 because he had dementia. My former makeup artist,
just one of my makeup artists. To be fair, Box, you said speak for yourself, and she literally spoke for herself.
Was there in the room when he was injected with amphetamines before an event more than once during that campaign. And like I said all that on TV, and everyone I knew in DC who knew Biden, I knew Biden, said, yeah, no, he's got dementia. Like everybody knew. Everybody knew. It wasn't just,
well, except Jake Tapper,
like some right-wing Twitter thing where people were being cruel. It was like the people who knew Biden knew that. So like, how could you not know
that?
I
think
what do you guys think about this? I think that the idea that we on the one hand, we're still able to, we as a society are able to maintain this this fake narrative that Joe Biden is sharp as a tack all the way to the top. That's happening. And then simultaneously, everybody's like, yeah, no, that's bullshit. Does that speak to the end of an era? Does that speak to the death of whatever you want to call it, legacy media, mainstream media, whatever you want to call it? We've seen the we've seen the downfall for a long time, but I'm talking about the death now. Like, this is so big and so obvious. I don't know how you come back from this. As we're seeing, the Chris Cuomo's and Jake Tappers of the world cannot come back from this. There are certain people that watch Chris Cuomo, but to be fair, as much of a shitbag as he is, he has changed, and he has, at least started to. He's still one of those people. You know what I'm saying? Before, there's a type of person like a Jake Tapper, a Don Lemon. He's still one of those people. Chris Cuomo is one of them. But it does seem like he's trying. He's failing, but it does seem like he's trying. Whereas Don Lemon and Jake Tapper, I don't see it.
Cool. It was like the people who knew Biden knew that. So, like, how could you not know that?
I think the reason this media fraud of all the other media frauds that have been perpetrated is probably the most damaging. In 2016, they pushed this whole deranged, demented conspiracy theory that Vladimir Putin had sex tapes on Donald Trump where he was being urinated on by a prostitute. And of course, if you know Donald Trump, that's pretty much the last thing that of all the people on the planet.
It's one sin he didn't commit. Yeah, no. For sure.
but
yeah, isn't he like a major?
It was that sort of thing. Like, they always accuse people in independent media or, whoever of being conspiracy theorists. Like, think about that conspiracy. Like, Donald Trump was being blackmailed by the Russian government into sacrificing the interests of the United States to serve the interests of the Kremlin. That really was the predominant media narrative from 2016 to 2018. Mm-hmm. So that's what they did to try
and that sounds like a joke. Like, if you drop someone from 1990 into 2025 and heard that sentence,
media or whoever of being conspiracy theorists, like, think about that conspiracy. Like, Donald.
So we drop someone from 1990, and then hear this:
Trump was being blackmailed by the Russian government into sacrificing the interests of the United States to serve the interests of the Kremlin. That really was the predominant media narrative from 2016 to 2018.
Would they believe you? I honestly don't think so. And speaking of things that we don't think so, 2/3 of you said Jake Tapper does not like boobies. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I don't get that from him necessarily, but I would be far from surprised if I found out he was gay.
It's to serve the interests of the Kremlin. That really was the predominant media narrative from 2016 to 2018. So that's what they did to try and stop Trump the first time. In 2020, weeks before the election, the New York Post had very serious reporting about the Biden family unethically exploiting Joe Biden's influence in Ukraine and China to profit not for themselves only, but also for Joe Biden. And we were told by the media over and over the lie that this is Russian disinformation, that this laptop the contents of it should be ignored because it's inauthentic. That, of course, was
more like American disinformation. Yeah, Box exactly said, I promise you, the left sees this too. They're just still feckless in power. We need the DNC, or we are a one-party system. Again, I think the DNC is definitely crashed now. But again, I think that all you will see, there's always going to be at least a dichotomy. You're always going to see. So even if the Democratic Party just disappears off of the face of the earth, Thanos snapped off the face of the earth, then the Republican Party just becomes the two that just shifts the Overton window. And I'm not saying that's a good thing, but there will always be that dichotomy.
I left The Intercept because they wouldn't let me write about it, claiming that there were doubts about its authenticity when I knew there weren't. But that was, and then Twitter and Facebook censored it. But on those kind of questions, like Russiagate, the authenticity of these emails, like, for most Americans, they don't have the competence to judge that because they do other things. But when it comes to seeing older people in cognitive decline, most of them have had that experience with like a grandparent or a parent or a sibling or a neighbor or whatever, and don't need to be told by quote unquote experts that is happening because they can see it with their own eyes. And for the media to have sat there for a year and a half and told everybody, as Joe Scarborough said, this version of Joe Biden is the best Biden we've ever seen. I mean, imagine being such a state propagandist that you do that and then keep your job.
Matthew King said, if you snatched somebody from the 90s and told them that, they wouldn't care. Trump was just a rich dude from New York. The fact that he was running for president, well, I mean, that was kind of implied, that him being the president did all of those things. I should have said that, but that was implied. But yeah, I think if you didn't tell them that he was the president, to be fair, in the 90s, it had been floated that he would eventually run. But, you never know. You never know. Look who we got over on Rumble. Welcome to Equality and Deference because vagina. Welcome. Said, liked, and shared. Thank you so very, very much. You guys know how much that stuff, despite it being free, helps out the channel so very much. And as Matthew said, it does not even matter if you think that anybody's going to click on the link. Just share the video. Just by you telling YouTube, I want more people to see this, more people will see this. Welcome. And good evening to you as well. Welcome to the party. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say that butts are better than boobs. I would say having a good butt is more important than having good boobs. Equally important, but for different things.
I mean, imagine being such a state propagandist that you do that and then keep your job. I think that's why this scandal is so devastating to them, and why, like, when Jake Tapper stands up to write a book saying, I've uncovered the truth with investigative reporting, everybody is reacting with justifiable nausea.
You got to admit, it takes some balls to do that, though. I mean,
Fox would love that.
Famously advocated for the Iraq War, realized in 2003 that it was a bad idea, and said I was wrong. What I didn't do was write a book saying, like, it was wrong and I always thought it was wrong.
Or like, hey, I'm here to write a book saying why the Iraq War was based on falsehoods. It's like, we already know.
And also, how stupid are you for believing the lies about the Iraq War? It's like, well, I told you them. That's why you believed them, because I was behind a desk on a TV channel when we didn't have the internet. That's why you believed it. Whereas fucking Jake Tapper over here is like, I didn't do nothing wrong. Well, I said, obviously, breastages are better than buttocks, but we love them both. I don't like that framing. I don't like that framing. Because I don't think. Okay, so how do we settle this? So then, Quality, you're just gonna have to give me your answer, but I'm running a poll for you guys. Would you rather, when I use the word no in this poll, I don't mean slight, I mean non-existent. So if we're talking about non-existent titties, you're talking about a man's chest. If we're talking about non-existent butt, we're talking flat as a pancake. You don't have a butt. You just have a butt crack. That's what we're talking about. No boobs or no booty. Nothing at all. Nothing at all. Box likes them titties. Box, what are you doing here, brother?
Or like, hey, I'm here to write a book saying why the Iraq War was based on falsehoods. It's like, we already know, Tucker.
Unless you're talking about titty fucking, then boobs are definitely better than dicks.
Sure, thank you. Right? Like, you didn't go and write that book because you were the one helping to perpetuate them.
Exactly. I totally agree. So I guess without repentance, without the acknowledgement of wrongdoing, of dishonesty, without saying I screwed up and making that the headline, nothing that follows is credible at all. It's like all fake unless you admit your role in the lie.
Right. Which and if that happened, if you said, like, look, I was really swept up in the media bubble I was in, and I want to tell the story of why I did this or how I got, like, convinced myself of this lie, then there would be some nobility to it. There would be some value and worth.
Yes.
But this is what I mean. Like, there were several people, but myself was included, I was bashing the table every day. We were compiling tapes of Jake Tapper doing all the things that I had just referenced. And I remember at the time, Jake Tapper always serving the Democratic Party in these ways. And
how could you
his initial response was to send out like publicists to try and, plant stories that I was lying, that I was manipulating media.
Come on, bro. Like Greg said, the Iraq War was a war by proxy that was as much a human rights atrocity as it was a geopolitical catastrophe. Well said. Colin Devon said, no ass over no tits. Yeah, it's a tough one. It's a tough one.
Send out like publicists to try and, plant stories that I was lying, that I was manipulating media. There was one in the Daily Beast, one in the Huffington Post.
Wait, actually attacking you?
Oh, yeah.
personally?
They were pitching stories like, yeah, and there's, they were in like shitty liberal sites that no one, like Huffington Post and the Daily Beast. There was a couple others.
You remember the Huffington Post tweet that we saw the other day? Something somewhere may have happened, but we're not sure because we don't know if anything actually happened. And nobody has ever said that this thing has happened.
But they had pitched them like to the New York Post and to the Wall Street Journal, I think, as well. Like New York Post got in contact with me. They didn't run it because it was so easy to prove that.
What was the allegation?
That all of these incidents that I just described, and there were others as well, of things he did on his show were like taken out of context or the video was manipulated, just like they did with
cheap fakes.
And people saw Joe Biden wandering around on that D-Day and had to be, redirected by Georgia Maloney or having been taken off the stage by that.
Yeah, that was a cheap fake, guys. That was a cheap fake. It actually happened, but you're not supposed to see it. So it's a cheap fake.
That's the other thing. They didn't just deny it. They attacked anyone who said it. People in 2024 who were saying, oh, look, Biden clearly doesn't know where he is, including at that event with Obama, that big George Clooney fundraiser. The Washington Post ran an article saying they were using, it was a new phrase, cheap fakes. Like they weren't exactly fake.
We all knew about this, but hey, why not take the victory lap?
But the narrative was fake. And it was anyone who said Joe Biden clearly is in cognitive decline. If you look at him at these events, they were called right-wing disinformation agents. And as it turns out, George Clooney ended up saying the reason why I wanted Biden not to run was because the Joe Biden I saw at that event was completely unrecognizable. He was like he has dementia. And at the time when people were saying like clearly he doesn't know where he is, being let off the stage by Barack Obama. None of this was new. This is what we had been seeing for so long. The media affirmatively used that disinformation term that has become their weapon of deception and propaganda and smearing people who tell the truth to label all of that disinformation. And so they were the ones who perpetrated the fraud.
Any lies detected? Nope.
And now they're pretending like they're the ones uncovering it. It is so, I think the reason they don't get it is because of that insulated bubble that they exist in. They all do believe that they're truthful, they're good, they're benevolent, they're nonpartisan.
Well, they have to. They have to. This is like the abortionist believing that a fetus is just a clump of cells. You have to believe that. Because if you don't believe that, what kind of horrible person are you?
And that, unfortunately, there was no way for them to have told the story because Mike Donnellan was lying about it or Jill Biden was keeping the truth from them. And
so Jake Tapper is using the exact same logic. Because if he is able to reckon with the fact that he openly lied and openly covered for all this bullshit, then what kind of person does that make you? Now, we can all see it, but he has to maintain this cognitive dissonance that, no, I didn't know. I'm just, I need a little bit more humility, but blah, 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 blah.
So what can they do?
I think that kind of self-deception is a byproduct of the tribalism that really defines DC. And it's like, we can't help the other side. Like we're going to start with the other side is evil and anything that helps them, we can't do. Therefore, we're going to have to make some accommodations that may include lying, but it's not really lying. It's in the service of a greater good.
Oh, yeah, which is what every person who has ever done anything evil has said to justify it.
Like the abortionist.
I'm not an evil person. I'm not a sociopath. I'm doing something that seems evil, but it's for a greater cause. The ends justify the means. I mean, that's the most basically a moral statement you can have. And that's since the emergence of Trump, that is all that journalism has become.
Yep.
Not just journalism, but so many academia, so many different institutions have renounced their core function, whatever that might be, science.
Yeah.
in order to devote themselves to this monomaniacal mission of stopping Donald Trump and his movement.
That's right.
And, you know, Sam Harris.
That's a good word. That's a good word. Guys, let's break the tie. Would you rather no boobs or no booty? We are at 50-50.
Harris.
Oh, Sam Harris. Oh, Sam Harris. If things were different, then things would be different.
A maniacal mission of stopping Donald Trump and his movement.
That's right.
And, you know, Sam Harris, just whether through stupidity or just like inadvisable candor, you know, was the first one who came out when the Hunter Biden laptop stuff after he realized it.
Put one in the chat if you have not seen this clip. You need to see this clip if you have not seen this clip. What he's talking about right now.
Like inadvisable candor, you know, was the first one who came out when the Hunter Biden laptop stuff after he realized it was a lie and said, like, yeah, I guess this laptop was true, but at the end of the day, I really don't care. If they have to lie about it, fine. The evil of electing Donald Trump is so much greater. And he was the first one to really candidly acknowledge what they are all thinking, which is we'll lie, we'll spread disinformation, we'll, you know, hide things, because the destruction and fear that we have of Donald Trump in power is so great.
Every time you do it, Ty, you are forcing me into a corner. You are forcing me into a vagina corner. If you want me to stop saying it, stop saying it. I don't say it I only say it when equality first gets here. Every time you say this, then I have to say vagina. Oh, actually, while we're paused, let's grab this from the Trigonometry podcast. I don't remember exactly when this was, but this video, this was
your capacity.
August 17th, 2022.
I mean, Hunter Biden, at that point, Hunter Biden literally could have had the corpses of children in his basement. I would not have cared, right? It's like, there's nothing. First of all, it's Hunter Biden, right? It's not Joe Biden, but even if
10% for the big guy,
whatever scope of Joe Biden's corruption is,
I've said this before. There was a time in my life when if you asked me, okay, alive or dead, you can have dinner with any one person, I would have picked him. And I don't regret that, because at the time, the things that I would want to talk about with him, they were still in his head. But his brain is now broken.
even if whatever scope of Joe Biden's corruption is, like if we could just go down that rabbit hole endlessly and understand that he's getting kickbacks from Hunter Biden's deals in Ukraine or wherever else, right? Or China. It is
I mean, I still go with his free will arguments. I still go with his moral landscape argument. The things that he said are important, but then you get TDS and you start saying other stupid shit.
Ukraine or wherever else, right? Or China. It is infinitesimal compared to the corruption we know Trump is involved in. It's
do it all! I said, fire the prosecutor, not get the $1 billion.
It's like a firefly to the sun, right? I mean, there's just, it doesn't even stack up against Trump University, right? Trump University as a story is worse than anything that could be in Hunter Biden's laptop.
Is it though? Cope harder.
In my view, right? Now that doesn't answer the people who say it's still completely unfair to not have looked at the laptop in a timely way and to have shut down the New York Post's Twitter account. Like that's just a conspiracy. That's a left-wing conspiracy to deny the presidency to Donald Trump. Absolutely, it was. Absolutely, right? But I think it was warranted, right? And
it was absolutely a conspiracy, but it was warranted. Wow.
Absolutely, it was. Absolutely, right? But I think it was warranted. Right. And again, it's a coin toss as to whether or not
Sam, I'm sorry.
That particular piece.
I'm really sorry. I was the one that said we should move on, but you've just said something I really struggle with
it.
there, which is
You support
the kids in the basement.
Good guess.
Fuck the kids in the basement. I'm interested in democracy. You're saying you are content with a left-wing conspiracy to prevent somebody being democratically re-elected as president.
Well, no,
but also talking about the 2020 election is evil. Come on, man.
Conspiracy to prevent somebody being democratically re-elected as president.
Well, no, I'm content. Well, but the thing is, it's just not left wing, right? So Liz Cheney is not left wing, right? Liz Cheney is doing everything in her power.
Conspiracy to prevent somebody being democratically
it's not but there's nothing conspiracy. It's not. It was a conspiracy out in the open. But it doesn't matter if it was. It doesn't matter what part.
No, this undercuts the dogmatic aspect of what TDS is. He is not a pseudo-intellectual. He is absolutely a straight-up academic intellectual. He has spent the time doing the work. He understands neuroscience better than, and especially in the context of religion, better than probably anybody else on this earth. Exactly. Yeah. Where is it? He is an actual intellectual. The point is that dogmatic thinking, like TDS, Orange Man bad no matter what, can take somebody who is an actual intellectual, who is actually intelligent, who does actually understand things about the world that other people can't fathom, and make them say things like, yeah, it was a Democrat conspiracy, but it was justified. That is the power of dogma, from which I learned from Sam Harris.
It's not. It was a conspiracy out in the open. But it doesn't matter if it was. It doesn't matter what part's conspiracy, what part's out in the open. I mean, I think it's like if people get together and talk about what should we do about this phenomenon. You know, if it's like if there was an asteroid hurtling toward Earth, and we got in a room together with all of our friends and had a conversation about what we could do to deflect its course, right? Is that a conspiracy?
Yes, sir. It is a conspiracy, and you're totally fine with it because you're a piece of shit, a dogmatic piece of shit. Guys, don't forget about our swole goal here. Morty is hungry, and I am weak and puny.
Spread disinformation.
If we don't hit it, the number goes back down to 10 push-ups on Wednesday.
Will, hide things, because the destruction and fear that we have of Donald Trump in power is so great that anything we do to try and impede it is not just justifiable, but almost like morally imperative. That is how most of these institutions ended up reasosoning, and that's why they've lost their credibility.
We're all Dietrich Bonhoeffer at this point.
Right. Yeah, well, it's very self-glorifying too. Like, we're on the front line of fighting fascism.
This is such a tired
are we not, though?
question, but I've never really gotten an answer that satisfies me. I look at Trump and I'm like, this is not a radical person in most ways. Why? And a lot of the things that he says are things that the Democratic Party was like officially for 10 years ago. Less wars, pay attention to the forgotten man.
Free trade is kind of bad.
Yeah, right, exactly. Right. I mean, he is not a radical right winger as I would have conceived of a radical right winger in 1998 or 2018.
Yeah, not quite.
So why? But the Hive reacted to him like the devil does holy water, just like I can't be near you. What is that? I still don't fully understand it.
I think it's two things. One, less important, though still not trivial, which is comportmentally, he's just such a radical departure from the way anybody who has ever gotten close to the presidency has conducted themselves. And I remember so well the time I realized,
that's fair.
Yeah, it's true. But once you understand what that is, you can put it in the proper context and not go insane about it. I remember the time that I realized just how far gone the media was when it came to this, and the political establishment generally, which was during the 2016 campaign when they kept asking about collusion with Russia and collusion with Russia and
Russia. As to the Nazi propagandists thought they were doing the right thing too. Nobody believes they're the baddies. I mean, there's always that justification, that rationalization and cognitive dissonance that will allow somebody, if you give them the right belief, to do horrible things. The only way to get a good man to commit an atrocity is dogma.
Which was during the 2016 campaign when they kept asking about like collusion with Russia and all that. And he said, I don't know anything about that. I have nothing to do with the Russians, but hey, Russians, if you're listening, they were asking him, did you participate in the hacking?
Yeah.
And he was like, I didn't have anything to do with that, but hey, like Russia, if you're listening, maybe you could find Hillary Clinton's like 87,000 deleted emails, which was obviously like a joke, just like just a joke. Like,
No, everything anybody says ever is never a joke unless I decide that I want it to be a joke.
I have nothing to do with Russia, but if they're such great hackers, maybe they can find. The media took that and they, for over a year, earnestly pretended that this was proof that he was in cahoots with Russia because he submits hacking requests to Russia. Like, if you have some like back channel secret relationship with Russia, the way you're going to like submit your request is by standing in front of 130 cameras and be like, hey, Putin, this is my latest hacking request. Go find those emails. Instead of like having a, Don Jr. meet in a parking lot with some like Russian agent or whatever. I mean, but the fact that they were willing to, they really thought that that was a smoking gun and could not understand how Trump jokes, how he uses irony, how he like purposely trolls.
Take Trump seriously, not literally.
Was, the time that I realized just how far gone they were. But I think the bigger reason why they were, I think we've talked about this before, is I would say since the end of World War II, maybe before that, but certainly since the end of World War II, what we have more or less is a continuity of core Washington dogma on foreign and economic policy.
Correct.
There's our favorite word, dogma. And yeah, Box is talking about we could all easily be the Nazi propagandists. I don't know about personally giving them grace, but the point is, like Jordan Peterson often talks about, is the monster inside. We have to be able to understand that we are capable of atrocities. We are capable of horrible things. We need to be aware of that and then control that. Larkbark said, throughout history, propaganda has served as a means to manipulate public opinion and lead individuals into a trap, often with severe consequences. Bingo. Yup. So are you behind? How far behind are you? I think you're behind.
Continuity of core Washington dogma on foreign and economic policy.
Correct.
You have, on the margins.
So I say the word welcome when you hear this.
Things that make it appear like the parties are so different. They fight about abortion. They do disagree on abortion or culture war issues, all of that. But on the question of how power is distributed, on how the U.S. maintains global hegemony, on feeding the war machine, on how our economic system functions and who it serves, there is complete continuity between Republicans and Democrats. Like those permanent power factions in Washington, the corporatism, militarism, don't care at all who wins because their policies prevail no matter what. You can vote for whoever you want. You can vote against it. You can vote for it. It doesn't matter. It continues. Trump, by necessity, because the Republicans had already chosen Jeb Bush as their candidate, we all expected it was going to be another Bush-Clinton.
I'm saying I think Ty is a little bit farther behind because before she was saying I'm lagging on the chat. I'm like, we could all see it.
Race. It was going to be Jeb Bush and Hillary Clinton. That was the assumption that everyone had. Hillary would have lost had the DNC not cheated for her, but they did cheat for her, so she was the nominee. But the only way Trump could break through, how do you break through against all the Republican money behind Jeb Bush? You have to run against the Bush family. You have to run against conservative Republican dogma on both economics and foreign policy. He ran against the Iraq War. He ran against permanent war. He ran against serving corporatism at the expense of the...
Shout out to all the likes, guys. Thank you so much. One more like will get us to 100%. Just do it, please. Please.
The working people against free trade at the expense of, like having an industrial base. And he became a kind of threat. And Steve Bannon was the architect of the time. And Steve Bannon's vision very much was that, like, the Republican establishment is at least as bad as the Democratic establishment. And he was a threat to disrupt this bipartisan continuity on which power factions in Washington depend. And I think that's what made him so anathema to so many different factions.
He was a challenge to the post-war order, basically.
Like questioning the viability of NATO?
I know. which
It's like walking into a church and saying, like, we sure Jesus is divine? You know, like that alone.
I'm not. I don't know. Thank you again for the like. We got 10 people watching, 10 likes. Thank you so very much.
that actually changed my life when he said that. I grew up around NATO, grew up supporting NATO unthinkingly, never thought about
NATO's
NATO.
the good guys. NATO
100%. NATO keeps the Soviets from rolling into Belgium, you know, and like that's good. Why is that bad? Of course, we love NATO. And
But then he was like, hey, but like the Soviet Union doesn't exist anymore.
that no one had ever in a lifetime of in DC, no one had ever mentioned NATO in a way that challenged me to think about what it was or its role until that. And he just said it offhandedly. And I was like, NATO, really? He's against NATO? How could you be against NATO? And that began a chain of thinking that totally changed my view of everything. So
it's like, hold on. We don't have to like NATO? There's a lot of reasons not to like NATO.
I think you're right. It's dangerous to have people saying stuff like that. I mean,
you get what you want is continuity with the status quo.
Yes.
And like who was a more
Yeah, since we are here, let's just say, make sure you, even if you came late, hit the live button, stay up with the conversation, and then if you want to see what you missed, go check out the replay later. You know, I'm one of those people who's like, oh, I'll go back to the beginning and watch it 2 times and then catch up and whatever. But you know, we're gonna be deep into the stream by the time you catch up, so just catch it later, and you can still watch it at 2x.
Is continuity with the status quo.
Yes.
And like who was a more reliable maven of the status quo than
I think we all thought NATO was special. That was the propaganda, that NATO was this amazing thing that created world peace. And then we were like, is it though? I gotta be careful when I do that because so the angle's not that bad, but you can't see it. Can you see it over here? So if I were to do this over here and throw the mic back, the edge of the boom would hit the monitor. So I'm gonna be careful with that. But is it though? All right.
and Hillary Clinton.
Yes.
Or Joe Biden. And so that's why
I knew it wasn't me. I knew it wasn't me. Again, say welcome when you hear me say welcome. I'm just trying to time it. When you hear me addressing this, just type welcome into the chat. So we'll get an idea of how
we're so desperate, including all the neocons and conservatives that you knew. So many of them openly supported Clinton and Biden, and many of them, like to this day, like half the Republican Senate caucus at least hates Trump, hates his ideology, hates his policy.
Kamala. Oh yeah, you really think Mike Rounds voted for Trump? I don't think so. I don't know, but I'm just saying, like,
right?
These guys,
those types.
Yeah. So can I just go back? I want to ask you more about that and like the place of neoconservatives. And I guess we're not even to use that term. So think of a new term as I ask.
All right, I will.
If you're on Rumble and you're looking for the live button, it is right here in the same exact spot that it would be on any other video that you would watch.
But before we get to that, like you mentioned Russiagate a couple of times and the hacking and the subsequent leaking of those emails from the DNC. Who did that?
Yes, I was asking
It's
Ty because Ty
possible, of course, that the Russians did it. Like sometimes you get the official story and it's possible.
Yeah. I said if all members of NATO did their part, it would be great. But some of them don't put anything into defense and just expect the U.S. to cover for them. That's why it's bad. The idea is great. But how many good ideas on paper don't quite map out in reality? I don't know, Ty. Maybe. But if you say welcome, then I'll have an idea of when you are here, like what the time difference is. But you keep not saying that. So you could be saying this from 10 minutes ago, and maybe you haven't heard me say welcome yet. I don't know. That's what I'm trying to figure out. So Ty, and just Ty, when you type welcome, then we'll have an idea of how far behind you are. Or if
you get the official story and it's possible. You know, I know Julian Assange a long time. I know him very well. And
what a good man.
Oh, I think he's like one of the heroes of our lifetime.
Totally agree.
And not just a hero, but like incredibly consequential.
Like
And
just a decent person too.
And like brilliant and courageous.
I agree.
Not without his personality flaws, but oftentimes that kind of courage. Whenever people used to complain about Julian's difficult personality, let's use the generous term difficult personality. I would always say, like, who do you think is going to go and like spill the secrets of the world's most powerful government? You think it's going to be some like mild-mannered, like gentle, congenial person?
And same type of argument as when it comes to Trump being in the White House. What do you think is going to get done? What we need to get done? Somebody who's willing to toe the line at every little spot, or somebody who's going to go in there and do what needs to be done despite the hate they're going to get? Shout out to Madness. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the party. So which NATO ally is most comparable to America in size and capability? Size and capability? I mean, there is somebody who's most comparable, but is it comparable at all? I don't know. I genuinely don't know. I'm not going to say none because I'm coming more from ignorance. But yeah, if well, we could do a little side quest with that. Yeah. Equality. Yeah. I wait a minute. Yeah. No. Let's see. Let's let's see. Wait, where are you guys? Which NATO country is, or yeah, let's say NATO ally is most comparable to America in size and capability. God damn it. What? Why do I need emojis for ChatGPT? I don't need emojis. Dun, 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 dun. No single NATO ally is truly comparable to the United States in overall size and military capabilities, as the U.S. is by far the largest and most powerful member of the alliance. However, if we look at the next tier of NATO powers, most comparable ally is the United Kingdom, followed closely by France. Here's the breakdown. So we got all this. They got all this stuff. So okay, so let's compare the UK. So can you compare relative factors that go into supporting NATO between, can you compare? Yeah, between America and the UK. Specifically, like budgets and number of soldiers and stuff like that. Let's see. Head-to-head comparison. Here we go. So the United States, 877 billion. Only 800 billion more than the UK. 3.5% of GDP, 2.5. Active military personnel, 1.3 million. They've got 150,000. Reserve, we've got almost 1 million. And they've got a third of their active. Yep. I mean, in every single aircraft carriers, 11 full size to 2 medium size. I mean, like, come on. I'm actually going to drop this link in the chat if you guys actually want to go through these numbers. There is the link. So, despite not knowing jack shit about those numbers, I could very clearly be like, most comparable. I don't know if there is. And I was right. Yeah, we can't smoke Russia and China, but they're definitely not NATO. Matthew said, we are like the big friend that comes for a little retarded buddy that likes to talk shit. I may or may not have spent a period of my life being the little, not so retarded bunny that likes to talk shit because I had big friends. I said, I heard the largest air force in the world is the U.S. Air Force, and the second largest is the U.S. Navy. USA! There you go. Yeah, and then you have the people themselves, and we got guns, baby. We got guns.
No, it takes a certain personality type.
Yes.
And but in any event,
sorry, I missed equality saying yep, 4 times. Yep. Germany will be comparable economically. Militarily, no idea. You need some side quest theme music. That is a smart idea. Let's take a side quest to check out side quest music. So we'll do a little vote because there's some music built into StreamYard. So what if we do the lo-fi? Wait for it to kick in, I feel like. Nah. Maybe. I like this one. I think I am going to use this as our Swoggle music, but all right. Feeding the ducks. Feeding the ducks. All right, there we go. All right.
Person, no, it takes a certain personality type.
Yes.
And but in any event, he had insinuated several times that it came from within the DNC. He had raised the possibility that Seth Rich was murdered because he was the leaker. And
leaker? I barely even know her.
It was Julian. It was WikiLeaks who ran those docs.
It was WikiLeaks who received them.
Yeah, but who shared them with the world.
Who then published them all. Exactly.
So it's not a small thing when the guy who runs WikiLeaks suggests something.
Correct. That said, if you are the recipient of leaks, as I've been many times, you don't actually know who you're not sure if the person.
Pause. I mean, sorry, I
suggest something.
Correct. That said, if you are the recipient of leaks, as I've been many times, you don't actually know who you're not sure if the person bringing you the leaks is the person who actually engineered it. That could be a cut, go between. And, but at the same time, Julian is extremely smart. I talked to him this day. He's, I think, not fully recovered. He'll never be. I mean, after what he went through, but his brain is, just like a font of insight. And I trust his judgment so much. You can go back and look at stuff he said, and it proved to be so prescient.
I know.
And so when he says that, I do think Julian sees himself, for good reason, as an enemy of the intelligence agencies in the West. I mean, he is that. So undoubtedly.
We did like 7.5 years in confinement because of it.
Yeah, like 8 years in the Ecuadorian embassy and then 4.5 years in the prison that the BBC calls the British Guantanamo.
And
so
Mike Pompeo, the head of CIA, plotted his assassination. So I think
plotted his assassination, badgered the Ecuadorians into lifting the asylum they had given him and promised him, and allowed the London police to go in and, coerced, threatened.
So, all right, they're getting a little into the weeds here. I want to move on to something. Of course, we are past the 2-hour mark. So if you would like to keep the party raging, you know how to do it. We are diving into why identity politics stifles honest conversation. And this is directly relevant to the woke right.
But you know what the irony of it, the core irony of it is the conservative critique or grievance about the American left over the past 20 years
is that they're woke, and now all the right people on the right who are being woke
has been the minute you try and have an honest conversation about any kind of policy, you instantly get smeared as a racist,
right,
a misogynist,
because of identity politics.
I don't know.
And you may be suggesting that something like that's going on here.
It might be a little bit similar. That the minute you even suggest a question or even a peep of criticism about Israel, you instantly are branded an anti-Semite. It seems pretty similar to me to the tactics long used by the American left that the conservatives have been vocally complaining about for a long time.
It's, Glenn, I would love to shout you down and say that's unfair, but it's not. That is fair. It's true. What you're saying is true. And I agree. And it's, shameful. So, but the choice is not.
Don't be woke.
Not between like being a Nazi or being Randy Fine. There is a reasonable, sensible, rational course forward where our country, like every other country, makes its foreign policy decisions on the basis of what's best for its own citizens. That's
like you can say, I don't think it serves our interest to keep the war in Ukraine going and paying for it without being a Kremlin agent.
Exactly. Or saying,
yep.
I don't know, how is it good that American military technology winds up in China or Pakistani fighters that they receive from China through Israel? Like, if that's true, and I think there's a lot of evidence that it is true.
I'm going to assume your question about Golden Showers is a song name and just going to move on. But Equality Done says, yep, I've been on the receiving end from conservatives who supposedly oppose identity politics. No principles, just positions. Wokeness.
Like, how is that a good arrangement? And why is our greatest ally doing that to us? I don't understand. I'm like really confused. Like, why don't you answer the question? And it's not enough to call me names. You should have to have an honest conversation about this.
No, you just hate the Jews, or you love the Jews.
And I do think when that begins, like, healing begins. Things get better when people can be honest, I think.
I mean, but there's so many mechanisms. Like I know I've talked about it so many times, but my mind always gets so blown when we talk about it again. Talking about honesty and discourse, they banned the Bin Laden letter. There's so many mechanisms designed to prevent,
of course, any
honest conversation from being held about all sorts of policies that people in power want to keep immune from questioning or challenge. Like, hey, why are we still in NATO? That's, to me, the thing that turned people against Trump and turned people in the establishment against Trump more than anything. We already talked about that, but like, that's not supposed to be a questionable topic. Like, why are we still in NATO? And like, oh, it's a defensive alliance, except like we bomb.
Is it though? And yeah, that you saying I'm not anti-Semitic or pro-Semitic. I'm nothing to Israel. I don't care about that country either way. Not my monkeys, not my circus. I am completely, like, obviously I understand there are geopolitical implications of doing this versus that, but yeah, I just don't get, like, how do we be the least involved? How do we have whatever's going on there have the least effect on American citizens? That is what I'm for. Fox said, I like it here because I feel like I can be honest. You are all very gracious. We try, brother. We try, brother. Dilly. What? Mark Park said, why is it that any criticism of Israel or lack of support instantly results in claims of anti-Semitism, even when that's not the intention? Because we have woke people who care more about winning arguments than understanding reality or coming up with solutions or anything like that. The same exact way that the woke left would call you a bigot because you didn't want to trans a 5-year-old, it is identical that if you don't want to suck off Netanyahu, then you hate the Jews. Or if you are like, well, there's a lot going on in there. There's nuance. And you're not like, said Jews. They're like, oh, you're just shilling for the Jews. Like, wokeness. What else can you call it but wokeness? I mean, at best, if you hate the woke right thing, just call it SJW behavior on the right.
Serbia and like Yugoslavia with it, even though they weren't actually posing a threat to Western Europe and had nothing to do with the Soviet Union, or like it went to war in Libya to remove Muammar Gaddafi because he wanted to start using Libyan oil more for like the benefit of the Libyan people.
Okay, Glenn, if I could just say, it's a defensive alliance. Okay,
those were preemptive
it's
wars.
a defensive alliance.
It's a defensive alliance.
I promise it's defensive. I promise. And I mean, lifelong Republican or not, it is just clear that what I am saying makes sense. It's just that simple. It's just that simple. The same way I can talk about, well, there's liquid in this mug. And if I drink all the liquid in this mug, then there won't be any more liquid in the mug. That's just a true statement. That's just a statement that aligns with basic reality. And people don't like it. People don't like it because it attacks, the people who are the Jews people, one side or the other. That's them. So they need the cognitive dissonance to rationalize that they are not woke. Otherwise, what kind of person are you? The same type of person you've been making fun of for the last 10 years. CD said the Orthodox population in New York is very much anti-Zionist. It's way more complicated than just anti-Semitism. Tell that to the Jews people. Try and tell them that. They'll be like, yeah, why don't you just go suck off an uncircumcised dick, you fucking Jew lover? Jesus Christ, bro. Jesus fucking Christ. Can you be any more woke?
Not to be defensive. No, I look.
So there are all those mechanisms, including like calling people racist for a long time who wanted to raise issues about whatever.
Well, sure. I mean, I remember this in 1991 when I got into this business doing a story on Head Start. I've never been against Head Start as an idea. The original idea was like, we're going to literally raise children's IQs through better nutrition and early childhood education. That is not a crazy idea. It didn't strike me as crazy at the time. And you start asking questions like, well, does it work? I don't know. It's supposed to help these kids. Is it helping them? Shut up, racist.
Yeah, no child left behind.
It's like, how was that? I was so confused. And I realized no one even remembers what Head Start is, but it was a very promising program in the minds of many.
Shout out to Trey. Trey was asking about this a while back. I think it was in the context of Doge, and they were saying that he was saying that Doge was cutting something from Head Start, and that it had to do with something. I think neither of us were exactly sure what the cuts were, but and I Daddy's a doctor. I was not a Head Start kid. And so I just didn't know really what it was. I was aware of the fact that, some kids get discounted or free lunch, but that was the extent of, what I understood about, that type of school program. But it turns out there's a lot of waste, fraud, and abuse.
That didn't work. But the point of calling you names was to continue doing things the way they'd always been done, because some people are benefiting from that.
Exactly.
It had nothing to do with race. Just as I don't think this argument has anything to necessarily to do with ethnicity or religion. It's just like what's best for America.
The protest movements on college campuses were, I don't want to say led by, because that's maybe an exaggeration, but in many cases is definitely true, but driven in
exacerbated by
large part by Jewish students vehemently opposed to the destruction of Gaza by Israel. So the idea that somehow it's anti-Semitic to question either the Israeli destruction of Gaza or the U.S. financing.
Yeah, remember when with October 7th, all this stuff happened, and like the next day, there was people in Ilhan Omar's district waving Palestinian flags. I was just like, what is going on? What is happening? But those are all people on the left. But then you have a lot of Jews people on the right. So it's clearly not a left-right thing. And unlike a lot of other, looming systemic issues, it's not a class issue either. It's a culture war issue. Do you engage in good faith, or do you have your opinions that you want to be true and then do whatever you can to make those fit?
Of it, when you have huge numbers of Jews on the streets every day marching in protest against it, by itself should reveal how corrupted that tactic is, and yet it's so effective because it's instantaneous, right? No one wants to be called a racist. No one wants to be called an anti-Semite.
No.
And
equality, you have a good one.
It is an effective tactic. At least like it makes it so that you think like maybe it's just easier for me to keep my mouth shut about this and talk about something else.
I've always felt that way. It's way easier. I don't want to get involved in it. It's not worth it. I've got all kinds of concerns about my country, which really is kind of falling apart in key and measurable ways. Like people are dying younger. I feel like that's something we should think a lot about and try and
People are dying younger?
fix and everything. It's like, I don't want to get involved. And I do grieve when I see our public conversation hijacked by what I consider foreign concerns, like both sides. Like, you know, you shut down Midtown Manhattan because of some conflict thousands of miles away. It's like
except it's an American war, though.
Well, that is that.
Well, it is now.
That is it. But it's not just Israel. I mean, you see it all the time. You see people getting murdered in like the upper Midwest because of like there's a sick Hindu, you know, whatever, all that stuff. I do feel like this country needs a lot of care and attention, and it's been neglected. And that's how I feel. So or maybe that's how I justify staying out of it. I don't want to be involved in it.
But you have
I said, shit, me neither. I don't want to be involved. That's it. I don't want to be involved. Box said, Rich Man Tucker talking about my problems seems meh. Why? If we're talking about world war and global conflict, what does being rich have to do with it? Your liberal brain is being taken over. Yeah, this is not that, bro. You just hear rich man. Oh, he must be a different species than us. Because he has money, he must not care about the sanctity of America. Your bias is, they're literally saying the opposite. They're literally saying, I don't want to be involved. I don't want to be involved. That is the opposite of what the swamp is saying. You need to get I'm not saying I don't have, but we all need to do it. But in this moment, it's you, Box. You need to roll in your biases because you're just saying things because, oh, he's a rich person who's on the other side. Therefore, he's a rich man talking about problems because rich people's lives are perfect. We know that, right?
Kind of been a little bit more involved than he used to be. And I think, but also because...
Well, it's going to destroy the MAGA movement, which I think is really important. It's in a sense, not just about Trump. Of course, I love Trump. I've said that many times. I have displayed it. I campaigned for Trump, and I'm glad that I did. But I feel like if there's one thing that could destroy this essential reform movement, it's like kind of our last chance to make government responsive to the people who own the government, which is the citizenry. This will destroy it.
This will destroy it if we do not correctly identify the woke right and distance ourselves as MAGA from the woke right. Then he's right. But if we continue to call this out and keep this part of the lexicon, then we can very easily call the wokies woke. And right now, it's not as well defined. So yeah, the lefties are going to have an easier time just saying, oh, the woke right, that must be MAGA, blah, 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 blah. Whatever. Who gives a fuck? They change what they say every 5 seconds. We know what's right. We know what's good. We understand what's actually happening. Stick to your principles. Follow through with them. Anytime somebody wants to just equate woke right equals MAGA, then you ask them, how so? How so? And then when they don't have an answer, and you have an answer, you win. And when I say win, I don't mean win the argument. I mean win in getting your message to people who need to hear it.
Because the massive contradiction sitting at the heart
That's
of it.
what I'm
And
saying.
not just that, like, it's not all the stuff we talked about, but also free speech, free expression, not being punished for your views was also a vital part of this movement. I know that's why I found so much common ground with the American right and with the MAGA movement over the last 10 years, because of my vehement opposition to attempts to censor the internet or introduce laws to characterize certain views as hate speech and therefore punishable. And that's exactly what has been.
Right, but Box, I'm saying, why is that just your feeling? And why are you going off just your feelings instead of your intellect? like I said, roll back your biases.
Laws to characterize certain views as hate speech and therefore punishable. And that's exactly what has been done and is still being done.
I couldn't even believe it. Like when I always liked DeSantis, I spent a lot of time in Florida. I was there for part of the pandemic. And I like DeSantis. He's smart. You know, he's not a warm guy or anything, but I'm not looking for new friends.
Right.
I like respect DeSantis. And he's very on it on the details. Then he signs a hate speech law. Travels to a foreign country to sign a hate speech law in Florida. And I was so confused. I didn't even think this was real. And I said to some people, that was a hate speech law. It's not a hate speech law. It looks like a hate speech law. It looks like Sharia law, kind of a version of Sharia law.
I'm not familiar with this. Do you guys have something I could search to find this? I'm not familiar with this at all.
In Florida? Shut up! And no one said anything about it. And then like all the DeSantis people start attacking me for noting, and I've never talked to DeSantis again on the basis of that. Like, what is that? How can you do that in the United States?
I mean, there's this attempt now to impose on colleges, require colleges to adopt, but also enact into American law, this radical expansion of what anti-Semitism means. Like there's laws that say, here's what racism is, here's what, xenophobia is, here's what Islamophobia is, misogyny, whatever, to expand the definition of anti-Semitism to include statements not only about Jewish people who should be subjected to critique. Like you should be able to say, that Ben Shapiro seems to care quite a lot about Israel, maybe even to the point that he cares about it more than the United States. Like,
anti-Semite? How could you say that? That's the worst thing. No, you're probably right, though.
You should be able to express that critique. So this expanded definition prohibits not only statements like that, accusing any Jewish person of having greater loyalty. I can say, oh, that person's Irish. He seems to really care a lot about Ireland more than the United States. Or that person is Indian. He really seems to care a lot about India.
Not me.
Maybe even more so. You're allowed to say all that.
Or in my case, Swedish. I've been accused of dual loyalty many times.
Oh, your
Which
obsession
you really
with Sweden is so annoying and like very disturbing. But the other thing is, you cannot say, this is just one example. You cannot say Israel is a racist endeavor. You can say Iran is a racist endeavor. You can say Hamas is a racist endeavor. You can say the United States is a racist endeavor. You can say anything you can be a student at a school a month away from completing your PhD with a completely clean record, and you can write an op-ed saying, I think America is a country of violence and imperialism and evil and was founded on racism, and you'll be totally fine. You write an op-ed, 1/10 of those criticisms, but about Israel, and ICE is coming to get you and to deport you. Why is that? Why is not just our free speech being limited?
I think he's talking specifically referencing that girl that we were talking about, where she wrote an op-ed and talking to her school, not even to the government, saying to the school, "Can you divest from Israel? They're not so great." Like anti-Semite, deport her. I ain't about that. That was some fucking bullshit. Shout out to DJ Isolated. Welcome to the party. Very good to see you, sir. Again, guys, we are coming up on that 2.5 hour mark. If you would like to keep the party raging, make sure you get those donations in.
Get you and to deport you. Why is that? Why is not just our free speech being limited, but being limited not even to protect our own society and our own government, but to protect a foreign government from critique?
We got to protect it. We got to protect Netanyahu. We can't let people in America say mean things.
So this is the kind of thing that cannot be sustained by a movement that has certain values that it professes that are being radically assaulted by this one single policy and loyalty toward this other country.
Like wokeness.
Not agree more. I mean, it's no matter, and I do think, and I know people who love Israel and believe in the project, and it's fine.
Shout out to Box, already in the after party, making sure we are going to rage.
I have a million friends who believe that, and that I'm not mad at them about it. But you could believe that and say America's founding documents, its Bill of Rights, is sacrosanct, and under no circumstances should American citizens be stripped of their rights. Any circumstances. Period.
Period. Ben Shapiro is woke right because he's putting religious beliefs and ethnicity first, not his fellow Americans. Indeed. So before we head out, guys, I want to show you this video that I posted on TikTok. I've been watching Sopranos for the first time, and I'm mid like season 5, I believe. So spoilers if you, it's fucking a 20-year-old show. You either care or you don't. But check out what we got before we go. Let's put, oh wait, I don't need the captions because TikTok already has the captions in there. All right, I think some of you might unfollow me for this, but just hear me out. I just started season 5 of Sopranos for the very first time. If you've been following along, there was a time a couple years ago I tried to watch it, but I fell off in the first season. I was like, no. We've got to get this done. We have to watch Sopranos. You're going to be a TV junkie. You got to watch Sopranos. So first time around, that was still during when Breaking Bad was airing, and there was just too much similarity, and I couldn't get over the direct comparison. Yeah, when I had a friend who was like, you got to watch Sopranos, and so we were watching it, and we got through season 1, and I was just like, meh. Yeah, I rewatched I did Lost, and then what was I watching after that? I did a Game of Thrones rewatch. Now I'm watching Sopranos for the first time. Now, since I'm talking so much about Breaking Bad with Sopranos, again, over on TikTok, if you guys care. Or use it. Then I'm going to do another Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul rewatch to be able to compare Sopranos to that. Then I've never seen The Wire, so I'm going to watch The Wire after that. Is X-Files really like that? I mean, is it really like that? I don't know if that's really my cup of tea, but yeah, I've seen The Expanse. Was just too much similarity, and I couldn't get over the direct comparison. But now years have gone by, and I'm able to see Sopranos in the light of its own show. I'm not comparing it to other things. Obviously, hey, you can change my mind. It's 2025. I'm just watching Sopranos now. So give me the pitch. There are comparisons to different similar shows, but I'm not saying, is it as good as this? Is it good as this? Is it good as this? Is it good as this? I'm just watching it for what it is. It took a while to get used to the pacing of the show, because it's not like one episode is one day, or there's any type of markers that will show, oh, this is happening tomorrow. And so stuff like that. That was one of my biggest complaints of the show, is that it's just like, well, exactly what I'm about to say. Any type of markers that will show, oh, this is happening tomorrow, and so stuff like that. You just jump from thing to thing to thing to thing. It could be the next day, it could be the next week. You have no idea. But I thought that was just maybe something I would have to get used to, and not necessarily something I didn't like about the show. But I'm starting to realize I think that's something I don't like about the show. I made a video about in season 2 when Tony passed out at some party for Meadow and everything, and then just cuts to a completely different day. Whereas I would have liked to seen how people reacted in the moment to Tony passing out in public. I think that was the first time he was passing out in front of, the family. Then talking about some party they were at for Meadow in season 2. And we get to whenever it is with all the stuff going on with Jackie Jr. And, Jackie Jr. is part of the story and is there for Meadow. And then just randomly, he's like, hey, why don't we rob a game? And they go to rob the game, and then he's gone. And I believe that was the end of the season, right? That was the season finale. And so I guess that would be season 4 going in. I'm like, oh, bet. Okay, now we got a new aspect of like what's going to happen with Jackie Jr. That's going to be a good way to show how you can be on the other side of Tony instead of being part of the family. Now you've gone against the family. What kind of tactics are they going to use to find him? Maybe a couple instances where there's a close call when Jackie gets away and, whatever. Nope. Just popped him in the back of the head. Like, what was the point of spending all of that time with that character if it's just going to pop and over, never mentioned again? I don't get it. And there's a lot of that. Like, for example, maybe this will come back, but when AJ is about to go to military school and then he randomly just passes out, that never came up before and hasn't been touched since. And I don't think it's going to be addressed again at all. No, so I'm mid-season 5 right now. I'm mid-season 5. So I'm near the end, but I'm really just trying to huff it through. Like, I do not really care. I get what it is. Where, like, a Breaking Bad, we'll talk. Let me just finish this because I say a lot of things. And so instead of adding depth to the character of AJ, and now it's definitely not bad. I definitely do not not enjoy Sopranos. He's experiencing some of the things like his dad is. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Is that going to show something within Tony and da 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 da? No, it's just a plot device so that he doesn't have to go to military school and can still be in the show. Don't get me wrong, guys. It is an absolutely interesting story to watch. But stepping back, if we are going to compare it to other TV shows and other stories that are told on television, there is no way that you could say that the storytelling of Sopranos is anywhere close to something like Succession, anywhere close to something like Better Call Saul. Let's leave Breaking Bad out of it. There's just other shows where the characters, you get to know them so well because you see them in certain circumstances and how they act in those circumstances. Whereas Sopranos, it's just like, if this is the whole timeline, you get a peek here, you get a peek here, you get a peek here, you get a peek here. That's what I meant. The way that story, the timeline goes. So if my arm is the timeline of what's happening in Sopranos, then instead of the story being about this much of the timeline and really digging into it, then we get this whole thing, and you get, something happens here, and then something happens here, and then something happens here, and you don't know what's happening in between. It's up to you to decide and interpret what's next. Whereas compared to like any of the other shows that I've talked about, every little thing has reverberations, like in real life. Instead of taking this timeline and watching everything that's going on and being able to be told a cohesive story. I've also made videos about how TV today is too direct, and I enjoy the subtlety of Sopranos. But the problem is that it's too subtle. There needs to be enough of a plot. Like, try this exercise. And I can do dubs. I'm not reading my fucking TV. I'm not fucking reading sorry, I'm just not. It's too, yeah, I'll check it out. Too subtle. There needs to be enough of a plot. Like, try this exercise. You tell me, what were the events, just the plot points of Better Call Saul? Just list what happened in Better Call Saul. List. You can say, I won't give any spoilers, but basically we made Slip and Jimmy, and then he's doing this, and then we have that, and he goes to the thing with his brother, and then the trial happens, and this and that and that and that and that and that. There's a clear story. List what happened in Succession. List what happened in Lost. Now, try to do that with The Sopranos. You can't do it. You can't do it. You can try, but somebody else is going to have a different interpretation of what took how long, when it happened, why that happened, all that kind of stuff. And again, that's certainly an interesting thing to exist. But for me personally, I want to be told a story. I don't want to be told, hey, there's this story that occurs that's about this. You fill in the blanks. Again, I appreciate subtlety. I don't want it to be spoon-fed to me, but I would like to eat it, if we're going with the analogy. There's no way I'm not going to finish the show. So I absolutely will get through everything and have a full understanding of what the show is. But at this point, I don't think it can come back from the lack of depth that so many of the characters have. Like, tell me anything about AJ. He likes heavy metal music and he smokes. Tell me anything about Janice. Tell me anything about any of these characters. There's just no depth to them. They have enough emotionality to give depth to Tony. And, Carmela, I would argue, a couple other the main characters, but they just drop people in as plot devices. I don't think that Tony is not well developed. I definitely could be better, but if we're comparing it to like a Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, Succession type of world, there could be a lot more development. But I'm okay with Tony specifically. There is enough there, specifically with the therapy scenes, where it fills him out as a character. I know what I mean. You can't be an American and not know that it cuts in the middle of the sentence. But I think Tony is fleshed out. Could be fleshed out more, but Tony is sufficiently fleshed out for what it is. But here's the reason why. Whereas in these other shows that I'm listing, every single person is there for a reason. Every word that they say is building to something within the show, and Sopranos just doesn't do that. I think a lot of was this an earlier, like season 2-ish, if that's what it was, where he the talking fish was pussy. That I really like that episode, but I don't like how the fish in his own dream was the way that he figured that out. I saw that there was other things there, but the final nail of I need to go and check his house should have been something that is his own conscious. Of you who love Sopranos, I could imagine that if I was in 2000 whatever and I was watching week to week, and I tuned in and I was like, I want to see an episode of what I've got used to is The Sopranos, then I would probably love this show because it is consistent, if nothing else. It's absolutely consistent. But that being said, this is why I'm okay with the general vibe of the show and that Tony has enough depth, but okay, I haven't gotten there yet. Yeah, I think Tony is enough, but everybody else is just too shallow. They're, like I said, they're just deep enough to add to Tony's character. 5 seasons in, I shouldn't be watching an episode, and aside from the different characters, it's an episode, tonality-wise, emotionality, the way that Tony would react, all those things. It's an episode that could find itself at home in season 1, 2, 3, or 4, and there should be growth. Again, think about the difference between who Slippin' Jimmy is at the beginning of Better Call Saul, or who Kendall Roy is at the beginning of Succession, versus who those characters are at the end. Now do that with Tony Soprano. He's the same guy, and that's where we're getting the most character depth. Everybody else is literally just a stereotype. And so that when I'm saying that I'm okay with Tony, the reason is because they're not giving him a character arc. They're just saying, check out this guy. It's like, oh, cool. This is an interesting guy. Anything else? No? All right. So yes, Sopranos is overrated, but it is still a really good show. It's just not nearly as good as some of the shows that have come after it and have been better dramas, better stories. I think I'm going to enjoy these type of things more than I'm going to enjoy the rest of the series. Now, if Sopranos is your favorite show, I'm not trying to tell you you shouldn't have a favorite show. That's just my opinion, but I'm completely right. Follow me on TikTok. That is the way to go. I want to give a big thank you to all of our donations tonight. Shout out to Arrow. We also had a new mod. Shout out to Matthew King for becoming a moderator. Our boy Indie Film. Almost 2 whole years as a member. And of course, sponsoring the whole goddamn thing. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Hey, I'm still waiting for those, you know what I mean? Hey, yay. But thank you so very, very much for hanging out, guys. I hope you appreciated everything that we are doing here because I certainly appreciate you guys. I know that you could be doing anything else in the world, yet you are here hanging out with me and Morty and having a good time, if I may say so myself. Like I said, if you want to be a mod, just act like a mod and look at what the mods do and do that. When people ask people to like the video, drop the Discord link whenever I talk about it. Drop the fucking member link whenever I bring that up. That kind of stuff. Be a mod. Just do what Nick does, and you will get a wrench. Because Matthew did not ask for anything, and I got a tip when I started streaming. Never give a wrench to somebody who's asking for it. So I don't know if that's right or wrong, but it sounds like good advice, so I'm going to keep with it. So if you want to be a mod, just act like a mod, and I will give you that wrench. Once again, guys, thank you so very, very much for hanging out. We got Morty passed the fuck out, and a very hungry Morty myself. But either way, I appreciate you guys so very much. Once again, I am your host, Lutch, aka the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. Guys, we are headed over to the after party. If you click that link at the top of the chat to join the Discord server for free, you get access tonight to the members only after party. Come on through, guys. Thank you so very, very much. Once again, we are out of here. Or wait, that's not how it goes. Until next time, guys, we are out of here. Peace.